Mm-mm. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, welcome again. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome to Night Midnight, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. My name's Elgin. This is my friend.
I'm Jason, and it's nigh midnight, and when we're talking about things tonight, it's gonna be deep sea creatures, mythical, historical, modern, the scary ones, the real ones.
Some non-modern ones too, some old ones. Old, new, all the ones.
Tonight it's gonna be deep sea. Ooh, let's try to do all that. Zoinks.
Echo. But
Echo,
anyways,
echo,
yeah.
echo.
Yeah. So I was actually
You got that?
I was thinking about this idea, funny enough, because I talked to our other friend Mark, and he was recanting the story of Hawaii and almost dying and all that, and we were laughing about it.
Ah.
And I was like, "Did you ever get that
So,
feeling of something pulling you down?" He was like, "Oh yeah, man, like the Kraken." And I was like cracking up about it. And I'm like, "The Kraken wouldn't be in warm water. That doesn't make sense." I was like, "Well, actually, I guess it could be. I don't know." And then I started like running it off in my brain, like what would really be the monster for Hawaii? Because Hawaii is a land of beauty
well,
and of violence.
Hawaii does have cold water though. Hawaii does because in the Pacific the water is traveling south um from uh the Arctic. So it's coming south from where it's cold, but on the Atlantic side it goes north. So for
I
America
guess
we get
when I'm
warm
saying
waters, but it's
when I'm
reversed
saying
on the other way,
cold water, I'm talking about like Arctic waters. You know what I mean? Like
and
Antarctica,
Arctic
Alaska,
waters,
like
yeah.
Arctic water, that's warm water. Besides there in Jamaica, like it's nice. Not as warm as Jamaica,
The other thing
obviously,
too
but
is, with how salty the water is, when you start going really far down, it becomes very, very cold, and the salinity keeps it from freezing. I mean, it is below freezing
right,
temperatures
right.
the further you go down, but it's also lots of salt keeping it from turning into ice. And
Right.
so the creatures that live in that area. Now, here's what I like. I like the idea that the Mariana Trench is a crack in the upper crust, and then there's the under ocean, the creatures that
Right.
survive
Yeah.
even more on
Super deep depths.
the
Yeah.
and the fumes from the volcanic gases. They
Yeah,
don't
those
get
are cool.
light. They process, they're completely albino, they've completely lost any pigment
Like
because
clear
they don't
skin and
need
pigment. Yeah.
protection. Yeah, the only light you better be smart enough to swim away from, because that's one of those,
Right.
those
Yeah, yeah.
things, those anglerfish, you
Anglerfish, yeah,
know,
yeah.
the anglerfish, they
With
trick you. They trick
bioluminescence.
you. Yeah, I mean, bioluminescence is the only thing that would be providing any light down there. And that would likely, if in a world of complete darkness,
It's a warning
the only
or
reason
some sort of a trick. Yeah.
I imagine it's a trick, for whatever creatures still happen to have any, um, um, what's it called?
Coloration
Um,
or pigmentation.
if they eyes, I mean, just sight.
Eyes, yeah,
If you
sight,
live in a
yeah,
completely dark
yeah.
world, do you even need sight anymore? So
You're right. I guess
really,
why
what
you'd be using
bio?
feelers.
Yeah. So if you have bioluminescence to trick things into coming toward you, then it's got to be for whatever animals still happen to have some sight relying on it at all.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true.
I think that I think that bioluminescence is something that's really cool. I would like to have some kind of bioluminescence, even if it was just the tip of my finger. Even if I couldn't heal people, I would love to do the ET phone home trick,
I
you
was
know?
just thinking that.
And
Yeah.
then every time I didn't heal someone's finger, I would tell them that it's their fault. that this
Right.
would
What did
work
you
on the
do? You're
pure
not
part.
worthy. Yeah, you're not worthy.
Yeah,
Exactly what I would say.
the the clean of heart, the soul, the pure, they're cleaned. Anyway, that is getting away a little bit from the topic of the deep and things that are
Sea
down there.
creatures.
And
Well, water creatures. Rather.
you water creatures, and you spoke to our friend Mark, who, as you were saying, recanted the story of, I lived in Hawaii for about a year in 2015, and he came to visit me, and one question. I was born on the Pacific Ocean, and I've seen the ocean many times. I've been in the ocean a lot, even if I've never become. I've surfed 3 or 4 times. I'm not a surfer. I always wanted to be able to say I am, but I'm not. You know. Oh, are you telling me you can't hear? Just checking.
No, you're good. I'm sorry. I was moving headphone off my ear.
Just double checking. Sorry about that. So, anyway, as I was living out there, I asked him. I was like, "Yeah, you know how to swim, right?" And me, that was a good enough question to ask my friend Mark, who I was thinking of Mark as the most athletic of the crew that when we were kids. I mean, the guy who woke up and immediately was dribbling the basketball before he would go to his work, and then, you know, would pay and then go to the gym after work. He was working out. I just thought of him as an athletic guy, and so I just said, well, you can swim, right? Because I thought that would be enough. And I said, well, we're going to a place called Shipwreck Beach.
Yeah,
I know.
Asking him if he can
I
swim.
didn't factor in that he's a desert rat.
Yeah, exactly. He's born in Vegas.
Exactly.
I forgot. The worst wave he's felt is in Wet and Wild.
Yeah, he's
has no sense of undertow or anything else.
He moved to Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, you know, and I mean desert rat in an endearing way, because I've definitely
desert locked.
I didn't know that he was thinking, yeah, I've been to a pool and I know how to swim.
Same, right?
And me, and of course, now to hear Mark tell the story, I spent the entire previous 12 hours getting him drunk. And then I took him to this beach. That's the way I think I heard it. Maybe he just wanted to tell me the worst version he could come up with. Like the way he told me.
Yeah, because if he says it any other way, it sounds like a pussy.
Exactly. It basically sounds like I made sure that my friend was sauced, and I took him to one of the most dangerous beaches that Hawaii has to offer. It's called Shipwrecks. You know, and I thought I had told him, hey, you know, last week a shark killed a guy here. And well, the week before, man got pulled under by the underpull, and that was really sad.
No one survives this beach. Enjoy.
No, tons of people survive the beach. I was there all the time.
I know, but the story,
phenomenal place.
You're like, oh, people get killed here, people get sucked out, and enjoy, have fun.
And even still, Mark he still looked athletic and everything, and so we had maybe 1 or 2 drinks the night before, and I mean slept in, and it was like getting close to noon, because, you know, whatever, he just spent 8-9 hours on a flight to get there. So I mean, whatever, 7, but still, you know, no worries, man, the beach is going to be there all day, right? And so we get down there, and I'm just like, you know, it'll be all right. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go get in there. He seemed excited. He had no hesitation. I trusted it. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. And I just said, no worries, I'm just gonna do. I can feel it. But no, I didn't feel it. I put my blanket down, my towel down. I laid down. I was catching some sun. It was like head back. Every once in a while I would like do one of these, you know, look up, look around the water. Oh, I see my friend. He's out there. No worries.
Still alive.
My athletic friend.
He's squirreling a lot.
He's alive.
He's fine.
He's good.
Doing a lot of this, but he's having fun.
Look, it's Shipwreck Beach. You know, the water moves you. You know,
look how much fun he's having out there.
Yeah, I mean, literally, just the water moves you up. Like you'll be going up 11, 12 feet up and down, and then, you know, yeah. In just a moment. So I just saw his head above water. Cool. Lay right back down. Catch some rays. You know, I'm working on my tan. I live in Hawaii now. You know what I mean? Like, hey, go enjoy the beach, man. I'll be right here. Boom, boom. And so, let's see here. Oh, it's there. And then I look up a couple more times. Oh, yep, there he is, head above water. Look up another time. Oh, looks like he made some friends. Looks like it's his turn on the surfboard. Cool. I guess I'm extra chill. I literally had so much confidence. I was overconfident. You know what I mean? I was just
Or he
overconfident.
oversold himself. Either way,
You know,
yeah,
I don't think
I'm golden, no problem. I've swam in plenty of pools.
You know,
Instead of being like, I've never
that,
swam. I've only swam in the ocean maybe a handful of times because I live 5 hours from the closest ocean.
Yeah, and a California beach. I love it.
It's a California beach, yeah.
So chill. Ocean's so chill compared to Shipwrecks Beach on Kauai.
The name alone.
The name alone. I mean, honestly, it sounds like death walking. What you think, big boy? You trying to do it?
His recount of the story is shorter, but it's funny. It's funnier. It's not as bad as you make it. He's like, yeah, we were out drinking, and then Cappy got an idea. Let's go swimming. And I asked him where we're gonna go, and he always calls it what do you call it? It's something like I'm gonna die beach. He's like,
I'm gonna die beach is what he said.
Something like that. Like, no one should swim here kind of beach. And he's like, yeah, he took me there, and like I got out there and I was like trying to swim and I couldn't swim. And then it was like taking me further out, and I was yelling, but he couldn't hear me. But I wasn't really freaked out because I didn't think I could die, but I was going further and further out. And I'm like, dude,
and I guess that's where my mind
really
was
out
at
did
too.
you go?
Just, I mean, honestly, he couldn't have been more than 12 feet out there, but he was constantly 12 feet out there, and that ocean is moving back and forth.
Oh,
it's never like so that's probably like 24. It's like 12 feet back and forth. You never know. So he might have been just, but then when he came back, what he said to me. All right, so then I'm laying down because I'm thinking it's cool. He's got friends on the surfboard now. And then all of a sudden I start hearing and I get up, I take my glasses off, and I look at him, and he's crawling up the beach to where I'm at, and he gets and at first, and again, still, I just don't think, it's just not dawning on me that my friends just had a traumatic experience. I'm like,
his perspective of it's totally different.
No, I'm sure that like I took him to hell, and then I laughed at him. But me, I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with you? What happened to you, man? And he's just like, I almost died out there. You know what I mean? He sounded like Peter Brady. I'm sorry, Mark, if you're watching this, you know what I mean? Pork chops and applesauce. But I mean, like it was scary for him, and I know that now. In the moment, it was like, are you fucking with me?
Right? What's your problem?
I swear I saw you just having fun out there. And he was funny because I thought I saw you swimming. And he's just like, I was fighting to get back. And I was like, whoa. And me, at that point in time, I'm just like, hold on a second. What do you mean you were fighting? Did you tell me? Were you just fighting the current to get?
Fights the current, yeah, right.
Were you fighting the current? He's like, well, I don't know how to get back. And I was like, Mark. I was like, Ocean's big brother. It's all of our big brother. Big brother always kicks your ass if you try to fight him.
Yeah.
But if you relax, he'll bring you right back to shore.
Might be a little further down, but he'll bring you back.
Yeah, he'll bring you back. Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute, Mark. This is when it dawned on me where he's actually lived.
Mark, you can't fucking swim.
Have you ever been in the ocean before? And honestly, I blocked out the answer. It's probably no. This is the first time I've been in the ocean. And I took him to basically, it would sound like I'm going to die here today, beach, forever. From what?
That poor guy. Like, the way you describe it is like, oh yeah, it's just, Shipwreck Beach. To him, it's like, that's the place he almost died. I also look at it like it makes me laugh because from his side of the story, it's like, I saw Cappy on the beach. He was laying there. I was flailing all over the place. You're like, he made friends.
Yeah,
He was on a
no,
surfboard.
from
That was like, I look at it from the other
that's
end,
what I
like
thought.
that was a lifeguard coming with the surfboard to save his life with
That
Soul.
that was
Cappy's like,
just that was just some
he's
some
good.
local boys who
But
grew
I'm
up
just saying,
there.
like from his eyes,
They know
it's
that
totally
beach.
different.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, even coming from California, we would spend enough time at the beach to where I knew, right? I knew to have a respect
The
for
respect,
the
yeah,
ocean.
the wherewithal, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I was trying to find another word.
It's one of those
The
things where if you don't know,
respect,
you don't know,
you
kind
know?
of really.
And yeah, it's one of those things. And if you don't know, shit, now you know.
It's gonna get you.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
now you
sucks.
know.
And yeah, it's one of those moments that taught me not to take your friends for granted, especially when you not in like I treat them like shit because where they going. In
No,
like
I know what you mean.
yeah, hey, we all used to have our thing that we were known for at 14 to 19. We're all 30s now.
I mean, I look at it the same way when I
So-
take my friends out shooting. It's like, have you ever shot a gun? And then people always go, yeah. And I'm like, have you
Yeah.
ever shot a real gun? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I need to clarify. Not a BB gun, not a Nerf gun, not what I mean. All these versions of guns on your video game. I mean, have you shot a real gun? And oh well, I'm like, oh God, you would have hit yourself or hurt yourself in the face just because I just assume like, yeah, you're older, so you probably have shot a gun somewhere. But if not, you're gonna get really hurt. So I really need to know if you've actually shot a gun so I can teach you how to
Yeah.
properly do it so you don't hurt us or anyone else or yourself, for God's sake. You know what I mean? But that's funny
I've
because
learned
like
to ask
that.
follow-up questions.
Yeah, it's always
But
like,
that's just me,
okay. I always can tell like how fast they answer. So if
Mhm.
it's like, oh hey, the answer is like, yeah, right away, like instant, I'm like, no, give yourself a little time to think about it because this is a situation where I don't want you to get hurt or embarrassed or anything. So let me ask some follow up, this and that.
I mean, one, I think there's something to be said for someone who's just so excited to shoot a gun as just, I guess, a concept. Like, I don't know whether it's novel or so exciting or for whatever reason. Honestly, if someone is kind of
All of those
too
things.
excited just at the, like all of those things. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I've shot it, dude. All right, you and I lived together for a little over 2 years, maybe, and before then. Let's see. All right. Honestly, I think the last time I shot a gun was with you. It was one of your guns, and it wasn't during those 2 years. It wasn't during the last 4 years. It wasn't. Man, I think the last time I fired a gun was in my mid-20s with you. You know what I mean? Like 10
that's
years
back.
ago.
Yeah, that was a while back.
And yeah, and so, but again, I don't know. And that was during the time when everyone we knew, even, or dude, even before then, it must be. Who knows? And I have held a weapon. Again, you and I lived together, and you have all your certificates and everything on the up and up, of course. It's
Yeah, of course.
I believe that they're useful. I think that they're tools,
Well,
and
it
that
just
only
depends,
humans can do
It's
evil
the same
things.
thing.
But I don't know.
I look at it like this. It's just something
never
that's
got
exciting.
I never got crazy, like stoked, and I didn't get excited about it.
It's because it's a rarity.
know
It's
what it
something
is.
that's like, it's something that a lot of people are interested in. They see, they hear about. They've never done it. It's funny enough. It's kind of like how I think about like this whole sea monsters thing. If I had a chance to go and like go on a deep sea mission and like look around, I would jump on that. But I'm also definitely afraid of being in a submarine. Hated it. I was only in a submarine 3 times in my life, and all 3 times was
Really?
a not fun experience for me. It was frightening. Those things are scary as hell. But
They don't
it's exciting
sound fun.
of the idea. You know what I mean? The idea is
course.
totally
I
exciting to
like
me. Where
the-
I'm like, wow, that would be crazy to do, one-off thing. It's kind of the same appeal that guns have
Yeah.
for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, when am I ever going to get to do this again? I don't own a gun. I don't want a gun. I want to try it. And it's a loud, exciting. Like you said, it's a tool. you know. So when you get to use one, it's kind of like, wow, that's the first time. That's how I feel about tools too. Funny enough, you know, when I buy a new DeWalt,
Yeah,
shout out DeWalt. um, when I buy a
yeah.
new one, I'm like excited, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is just another tool.
And I guess you know what I'm probably going to sound a little bit afraid. Maybe I am. Maybe I do have a little bit of fear of a gun even still. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not going to get too off
Could
subject. We're
be.
about to go right back to water, but I mean honestly, it's possible that I just my respect extends to a fear, and so it's like I've enjoyed like checking to see how my target practice is, but it's not like I don't know. There's not this encapsulating, it's not like, oh, I wish I could have been in the good old days of Wild West, or, to
Right, I
even like,
get
I
you.
wish I could have been the sheriff and uphold the law in a town. You know what I mean? Whatever. It's just like, all right. All right.
This
I
is
have a
the thing
decent shot
that
for someone who never shoots. That's very, very reassuring.
good to know,
Okay.
right? Good to know, kind of a thing.
Good to know. It's just, and then I forget, it's on a list of
Well,
like,
it's
things to
also a
get.
thing that you don't do often, and you're not excited by, so push it off till whatever. It's like me, like funny enough, I really equate that to me shooting pool. Like I'm good at playing pool. I forget that I'm good at
Mm-hmm.
playing pool until I play pool, which is like once every 8 months. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot. I used to play pool. I had a pool table at my house. My buddies, Mark and Steve, had a
Yeah.
pool table at their house. Like we used to shoot pool
Oh,
every day. You know what I mean? Like their
we
house
were
is
always
literally walking
practicing.
distance. Yeah, and we would go play pool. And when we weren't playing pool, we were playing video games. So like that is like the same kind of thing I think of. Like it's not as exciting to me. I just don't care.
Yeah. And that's how I get about the guns too. I think they're valuable and useful and even necessary. Unfortunately necessary in most of the cases that they are necessary, but I forget that they're there a lot too. I'm not like passionate about it one way or the other. It's like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be saving up for one of these things to protect the house
Yeah.
and family and all of that. You know, keep forgetting about
you
the.
also
Just,
you also live in one of the most gun toting states ever. It's
exactly,
like
and I've talked to a lot of my
a mini
neighbors.
gun or a mini Bible about it in your pocket. I mean, that's how they look
Honestly,
at
yeah, I've talked
it.
to a lot of my neighbors, and it seems like if there's a commotion, not like you want to be the guy who lets everyone else do everything,
You
but
feel like a Nas video.
before I
Got
have
myself
my
a
own,
gun.
yeah, yeah, see, yeah, and I bet a couple people here who are like that. Hey, finally got this one. Uh, you mean you
But
don't have a lot? See, this is the thing about being friends with Elgin. Let me just say this. Elgin, I've known him for a very long time. He's always been responsible. And when Elgin got his licenses and everything, and he could walk around with one on his hip or even on his cool shoulder holster, it was like, well, cool. Elgin's always been the one in the group who's too damn like responsible, like in an OCD way for me not to just
right.
chill about it. All right, cool. If something happens, I mean, Elgin wouldn't even touch it unless something was actually happening. And I can't think of a situation I've ever been around you in where there was a question about if it was going to be touched or not. But then at the
Nope.
same time, in the same exact state, all of a sudden I'd be working in a place where, you weren't supposed to come in with even, your open carry. Even though it's open carry state, the law still can say that you are not allowed to bring it into certain business establishments and
Any private
business
property, technically.
policies and private property, policies do supersede whatever it is that people want to say. So if all of a sudden people just, whoa, in my head, you see someone who's got one, it was just like, the hell you got one? My friend Elgin's already got one. We're safe. First thought
Yeah,
in my
why does
head. We're
everybody
already
carry
safe.
mace?
Elgin, why has everyone got a gun? Elgin's got a gun, so we're fine. We're safe. He'll take care of it.
He'll take care of it. Yeah. Why are you guys worrying? I appreciate that
I don't know who
confidence
the
in
fuck
me.
you are. I don't know who the fuck those people were.
It's more concerning.
It was like a
It's more
shock.
concerning that they're
It was
strangers, right?
concerning.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. Did you guys pass
Yes,
that by Elgin
concerning
and make sure he's good with this?
yeah. Did you guys ask my friend E Train? Because you guys really need to ask my friend Elgin,
Oh,
all right?
I don't want you to
You
get in
gotta ask
trouble.
him. I don't know.
Right?
You know, that's
Don't want anybody in
my,
any
my,
trouble.
my
So
brain does funny things. So creatures from the deep. My friend thought he said he likened it to being pulled under by a kraken. And a kraken is another good place to go back to. We'll go back to that. We've been riffing. The kraken, I think at one point in time at least, there was something. I think, the giant squid. Giant squid,
Yeah.
absolutely. We find some washing up, from the deep. We find them with whale bites. It's one of the oldest ideas, of people like art. It's a tentacled beast battling with a giant whale leviathan that people would always see. And what the hell is this? It was, I mean, likely
a giant
the
squid.
bigger the squid, a giant squid probably always lives pretty low down, and a mammal like a whale has to take a breath of air, and the squid, not being used to or even acclimated to being so up close, is being pulled up by the whale, and then that's why you see the fighting. They are each other's natural enemies.
Seems like
They're
it's
the snake
fighting,
and
right?
mongoose of the ocean, right? The snake and mongoose, much bigger, but you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think there was something that falls into the category of what the kraken was, and people have always been whalers too, whether they want to admit it or not. People have always, you see a giant whale, yeah, damn well, like up until 100 years ago, if you saw a whale off the port bow, you knew that you had,
Oil,
cosmetic oils, meats,
healing
right?
medicines,
We're eating
wax
healing,
for light back then because there was no electricity. Tools, candles,
right?
knives,
ambergris for man. And if you get a chunk of ambergris out of that thing, oh, the money that you're making when you sell it to the perfumery. I mean, like honestly. If you saw
that's why
a whale,
whales were almost
it was
extinct,
just swimming. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
super
as far
high
as 100
commodity.
years ago, if you saw one, it's cash sign. It's it. Same thing
there
with
she blows,
bluefin tuna. There she blows, right?
Yeah, bluefin tuna. You're right. Actually, I watched a show on Netflix about that. That was pretty interesting.
They're now like one of the reasons because they're just so tasty.
Well, the other thing too is now they're like starting to police how many you can take, the size you can take, what region that you can fish in, and how many boats can fish. It's insane now. Like you can't just go out there and just drop net them. You know what I mean?
I don't believe that American fishers are even allowed to. I think that only Japan are still allowed to farm, and it's not even farm. They're the only place allowed. Just like in Alaska, only the Inuit are allowed to, harm seals.
Hunt seals, yeah.
It's
seals and
seals.
whales.
That's part of their culture and tradition for, I mean, as far as what it appears, probably like 10,000 years. So,
forever, yeah.
Don't mess with that, right? Okay.
Well, exactly. It's like, well, you can't change their whole way of life, and it's not exactly like a giant, bountiful land.
It's such a huge,
what I mean? Like there's four sources of meat out there.
Like, okay, and it's not a situation where they were conquerors and now half the world is basically stemming from a culture of seal, so
right.
Like all
it's
of us
more of a
are
survival thing than a thrival thing.
Because honestly, as you get to more of that global mindset society, you have to start looking at things like, hey, we shouldn't be taking all the water off of a small island like Fiji, right? But that's a global mindset. Maybe we should leave some water for the people. What are they called? Fijians?
Never mind.
Nah.
Give them some money. Let's move them.
No, it's my favorite mineral ratio.
It's the perfect pH balance I need for my skin.
Yeah, exactly.
I take my baths in that stuff.
I mean, who knows? I take my baths in it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of that. It's yeah, and that happens
What?
with the ocean too. With what we're with the stuff we're doing to it, it's messing with the flora and the fauna. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah. All the coral reefs and all that stuff too.
and with
I
all the
was gonna.
trash that could be forcing giant creatures up. Yeah, sorry.
I have a question for you too about the Kraken. I don't know if you did that research on that one, but
Oh,
in every movie, do you
not
notice that the
much.
Kraken?
No.
Do you notice that the Kraken always makes noises, like roars or makes some sort
Yeah.
of noise? Isn't that weird to you? How they have like roaring Krakens always? They always have like a really, really like super loud noise, whereas most oceanic creatures don't. Like why would only that one be like that? And I have a theory, but I want to hear yours.
Okay. I do have a flash thought that pops in my mind immediately. I do believe that there were giant squid that, for whatever reason, would find their way much closer to the surface, and maybe thinking that they were going to fuck with the whale, they would attack a ship for whatever reason. I mean, again, it's the same thing about talking about UFOs, and people are saying that it's like, no, no, I don't care how or why they got here. I see them in the sky. They're here. We're past that part. Like, all right, for whatever reason that the squid
It's a
came
thing,
up,
yeah.
it's a thing. And I think that when giant tentacles are being thrown around a ship, you're hearing loud cracks of the wood. I think that if it holds on to something and it starts to rip the wood, there can be with men screaming, with so much
Right.
sounds. I just think that, and honestly, if you actually got to the point where you saw the beak and eye of this creature, I swear in that moment, shit, I think I hear a sound right now. I'm thinking about
Right.
it. Like,
Sheer fear
you
screaming
see
in your
this.
ear.
Okay, this looks like that poor pigeon that the mother pushed out of the nest right after it hatched. But not just that, but it's got a fully grown beak, but it looks like a fit. It's got no scales. This thing looks like a demon with a beak and one giant evil eye. Ugh, I'm feeling itchy thinking about those things. Calamari, I don't know what it is, but calamari, I think I'm like kind of allergic to. At least when I'm prepping it in the kitchen, I start getting really itchy. Again, maybe that's latex gloves.
That's weird.
But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, not a big fan of calamari. I don't know. I used to love it, but as time goes on,
Well, I love it, man. Oh,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like
I
mackerel.
think
Mackerel, my number one fish.
ooh, too fishy for me.
Mm.
But I was thinking
Oh,
my
it's the
my
best
view
part.
on that is they
Hmm.
always have them
Unsustainable.
making right and sustainable. They always have like big creatures like that making noises when it's like I don't want to say like larger than life size, larger than fear size, I guess, bigger than a lion, larger than an elephant. They always make every creature have a sound. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the whole
I
Jurassic
also,
Park thing. Like they always think like, oh, well, it's that big it would roar. I'm like, well, I guess like why? Because we're equating it to something that we have here now. Sure, but it's just a weird thing to me. Like a beaked creature, why would it roar? Wouldn't it be more of a
they do
screech?
caw
Wouldn't you
though.
think? That's what I'm saying. Wouldn't
They,
it be more of a
but
screech or a caw or like a throttle thing, not
but
a roar like that?
but now you're likening the sound of a squid to the fact that it shares a beak like a bird.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So you're thinking,
If we're doing like for like, that's normally what we do is like for like. So a lizard, a big lizard,
I
they
think
make
that
weird noises. They don't make roars.
I kind of think deep sea creatures are probably going to have something similar to like whales, where there are
Echolocation kind
again,
of
it's
clicks and yeah.
or at least some sort of a sound that'll travel long. And again, whatever sounds it is that they've adapted to make underwater are going to sound, I imagine, like the screams of an open pit to hell above water. Like, I mean,
Why though?
honestly,
I mean, you can hear
what
whale song. You can hear whale song over water, and it doesn't sound crazy, distorted, or anything different.
if the if you're in a new land and you hear a bird for the first time make a caw or a screech, you don't know what that bird is.
Sure. I mean, first time seeing it. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And again, back to last week when we were talking about hypnosis, I think I mentioned a little bit about neurolinguistic programming. It's that idea of, you and I walk in, we're shown a room for, 2 minutes, and then they close the door and they say, now both of you draw it, and we're both gonna, I might remember the people, how many people were in each of the pictures, but you know what I mean? You actually, you remember all the records, and I'm just like, there were records in there? I don't even remember that. And that's just, the less knowledge you have about a situation, the more your brain fills in. That's one of the most basic things we know,
Yeah, for sure.
Is, I think that if you saw a creature, no matter what sound it was making,
the sheer fear would turn something else in your mind.
Fear. Yeah, again, I think psychology comes into a lot of it. I think that our own experience, driven by whatever hormones that control the emotions in our brain, I think that skews how we see things almost always.
8 foot tall.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. A giant squid is like what 20
16,
feet tall,
25,
maybe.
30 feet.
16, 25,
the
30
Humboldt
feet
ones
tall.
are the biggest ones, yeah.
Okay, so if you saw, all right, let's go for a mid-range. Let's say 15 feet. If you see
that's insane.
15-foot giant squid, I'm not holding my water. Hell
right,
no.
Exactly.
I am wetting my pants and blaming sea spray. All right.
Especially if it's coming up from the bottom of the ocean and wrapping its tentacles on the whole ship, you know what I mean, or around the ship for that matter, because you got to figure 15 foot, not tip to tentacle end, 15 foot the body, and then tentacles are probably twice or if not 3 times farther than that. So pretty long, they get crazy big.
And then not just that, think about, like, for those times, again, I'm going to think about the psychology
and how often would they see it?
Well, not just that. First of all, for the times, hey, this is 17, 1800s. I know for a fact that going out into the ocean is a possible death sentence if we run into pirates,
you might never see them.
But I might never. And you know what? The
bad weather,
bad weather. Who knows what might kill me? But I'll tell you one thing that my dad taught me and his dad taught him. We don't believe in those sea monsters, people. That people draw on the maps. We know that that's BS, and they tell that to scare you. Why? Because sailors probably make a lot of money. Who knows? Who knows what psychological things? Or you can look at it as sailors have the coin to spend on drink.
Yeah. You can't be drunk if you can't afford it.
Think about it that way. If you can't afford to drink alcohol, you can't ever get drunk. And so, in a life of squalor, who knows? But I'll tell you what, to even have the balls to get out there onto the ocean in these times, you probably, and I don't want to say balls because obviously anyone could have done it. They had their rules back then, and they made you have balls back then. So anyway,
I was like, it was kind of a requirement.
Exactly, yeah. To have the gumption to
and it was unlucky to have a woman on the boat,
there,
but
exactly. I mean, look, these are old world rules. I don't agree with them by any means. I'm just saying what they did back then. So, look, you probably don't even believe that these things are real. And so now all of a sudden, here it is. All of those pictures, and that one guy at the bar Dad hung out with who would say that we're all fools for not believing, and he didn't even see it, but he believed. He wasn't crazy. He wasn't crazy. And here I am. I'm looking into the one single eye and beak of Satan himself, and I'm sure that it made a sound unlike
shrieking
anything
howls of hell.
that reality would ever sound like. You know what I mean? It probably is. and
short
they
dialect.
heard and they had like a premonition of the sound of a nuclear bomb, and you know what I mean, and just the children screaming of every bad thing for all the future and past at once. Like they had a true vision of Armageddon, you know what I mean, like type of thing. Like this is the end and this is how it starts. I mean, that's the other reason why I think a giant squid gets turned into a kraken that always has a roar. But for the deep sea creatures, as far as sounds, what about the bloop?
I
So
didn't.
now,
I
now,
never
now I
heard of
want to
this until.
switch gears over to the bloop.
Yeah.
Now, the bloop is something that I think that they're trying to attribute it to some really, really large creature, possibly a whale or something, maybe a giant whale shark, and they do seem to have like a video, and they don't know if that is what made the sound. There was a weird sound underwater, and people are saying, "Uh-oh,
How's
what
it
made
spelled?
that?" BLOOP. So while you look that up, I'm going to take a moment and explain what bloop used to mean to our friends when we were young. Now, a bloop, when we were kids, it's what you used to do when you stiffened your hand. And when I say we did Shaolin training, what you do is you make sure your hand is almost in that chopping motion, but you're gonna
More like a
lay it
knife.
horizontally. It's like a knife, and you quickly jab your fingers underneath the pec muscle of a friend, and back then
Deep to the
all of our
short rib.
friends deep to the rib, into the rib. I mean, if you can flick from the rib up, then you win. And some of us were trying back then. We had the need to
I have
win.
tried.
Once the hand is sufficiently inserted underneath the muscle, upward flick. It's a
thrust, if you will.
Really, I mean, you really want to turn with your hips. You want to lift.
It's like
with
the idea
your
of
shoulder
flipping
muscle.
a table with
It's
one
lats.
hand. That's how it feels.
Exactly.
Like trying to flip a table with one hand.
With the grace of pulling the tablecloth out and leaving all of the items on. So there's a fine line. What bloop used to mean, and not breaking a dish, right? Now the fine line between how a bloop can go wrong, and of course I will admit the worst bloop I've ever witnessed. It was done to me, and Henry did that one. I don't want to talk about it anymore. What the bloop means
Right?
today
I'm scarred.
for me,
I want to bring it up.
is, hi Henry, if you're there. The bloop today is a sound that was heard underwater, and people think that it is some giant creature. I sometimes think that, with things like ARGs and I mean, just all sorts of things that are modern trends. Anything you can take and run with it. And people, and it might not be easy to know what is what at first. And honestly, I like ARGs. The hallmark of a good ARG is, like in the beginning, you got to be thinking, does this person really believe this? Is this person for real? Or are they fucking with us? You've got to have like that moment of, or something. There's got to be a moment
skepticism,
of,
right?
or true intrigue. Skepticism.
Or true intrigue, yeah.
Even if it's, am I dealing with someone who needs help or whatever? But the bloop might be one of those.
Right?
What I'm
Should
saying.
they
So there's
seek
a
help or
sound
not?
underwater. Yeah, the bloop is something that once this sound was heard, seems like it's been attributed to, when you type the bloop, you see this giant creature. And I say creature when I mean creature or beast. If I say beast, I'm usually using it as a compliment. There you go. If you're taking notes, beast is a compliment,
Right,
the highest of which,
good.
and creature means creature. This thing looks really big. It looks kind of like a giant whale shark. Now, I don't know what it was. Again, who knows? What if it was a sound of another submarine across a thing, and it bounced and it reflected, and by the time the sound waves got all mixed up, on bouncing off rocks, and you get back to us, you hear this, and oh, what is it? Scary. I mean, there's a lot of sounds. I don't know. I would always like to find it, but I think that people have tried attributing it to that giant underwater thing. Have you seen that one? The video of it looks like
Which
a
one?
giant shark, a giant
Oh yeah,
shark.
they had.
That
They
I
had. I
mean,
watched a
that
video on
absolutely huge shark.
History Channel. Is that the one you're talking about? The History Channel, the guys that were doing the satellite footages of the. I was going to say bacteria, but it's not bacteria. It's like something in the ocean, that little small plankton, and they were trying to watch like how they sit near the shore, and they saw a shark that was like 40 foot long, and they're like, that has to be a
Yeah,
megalodon.
yes.
And then they had another one. They're like,
it
what
also
is this?
looked
Like,
extremely old. It looked like it had
yeah,
great eyes. It looked like it was hugging the ground like a bottom feeder, which I mean, I'm not a, you know what, someone once said this to us in one of the only comments we had, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I say it again. I'm not a scientist.
I'll
I
claim to
don't
be.
know
I
a
don't
lot of
mind lying.
things. My friend here, Professor
Certified
E-Train,
BS,
certified BS, right?
HPD, PhD,
It's a
ABC,
bachelor's
and
in
NFL.
science. Ain't no bullshit. But still, like, I don't know what all these things are, but like, sharks usually are swimming in the water. That thing looked like its belly was like hanging out on the ground, and it kicked up dust. I mean, it fogged up the whole video. It was wild, I thought, you know? That is what I think some people have tried to say is the bloop.
Huh? I mean,
possibly,
the
but I
picture
don't
that I'm
see
looking
any of
at,
it.
it kind of it reminds me of like a cross between, what's that creature in Adventure Time? Or no, can't remember what cartoon it was in, but he has the same face,
Oh.
but that body reminds me of the Dune sea serpent. Or worms, excuse me. The sandworms.
Yeah, sandworms. Very good.
Old ones, not
Shai-Hulud.
the old ones, not the new ones. The new ones are badass too in the new Dune, but the old ones, that's what they look like to me.
Yeah.
I wish I could do a side by
The
side.
Shai-Hulud. Yeah. Oh, I could. Let's see. But I'm not going to do that for that. We're going to go ahead and
What other ones
what was the next
did
part
you?
when I was looking at Megalodon, and that's what this bloop looks like. That's what I was thinking. Like, what was I going to do? The bloop leads into the Megalodon along with what that video is, because it looked like a Megalodon, you know. And I mean, like, I understand pranks and all sorts of stuff. That was much. Yeah. Who the hell's got the resources to make that kind of a joke?
Right, of all ways to make a joke,
stupid.
like, you're gonna spend that kind of money for that? That's dumb. I mean, I'm reading up a couple of things. It's bigger than a blue whale. It's almost 4 times the size, I think.
I mean, it was so big. Now, I think that it's possible, again, like I was saying, that there could be that underground, under the crust of
mid-ocean.
You know, a subterranean ocean even, and there's probably multiple entrances and exits along the different
tunnelways,
crust gaps. You know, I mean, if this is possible at all, if it's not there, then again, this is not my hill to die on. But you know, if I'm gonna have a little thought experiment, I don't see why not. Seems like the planet's moving around a lot. You know, so underneath that layer, if it's being heated, it might be a warmer ocean, which means, then going up above where it's colder, the creatures down there probably would die if they tried to pass through the cold water into the warmer water up above again.
Yeah.
Then if they ever did get up that high, you know, however people want to believe in evolution or not, it seems that creatures that live without light don't have pigment. So I'm not going to say how it happened or why, but it just seems that way. So if they happen to have any issues just being around light, I mean, some humans are born they can't be in the sun without getting a rash. It's not even about the heat. It's not about the sun. It's just
I'm
about
one of those people.
Light.
I have cholinergic urticaria. There's a technical term.
What does that do? Like, you can't be around light at all? Hold
It's
on
the
a
same.
second.
It's the same thing that the ex-wife has too. We both have it
That's what I was
actually.
wondering. I'm like, wait,
She
I've never
has,
noticed
yeah,
you.
she has the swelling version. I have the bump version. So light and heat, literally from the
Really?
sun only. Light and heat from the sun only um, makes me break out in little bumps. I actually sent a picture to my girlfriend. I don't have it, but I'll have to send it to you. Yeah, like I don't get it very often unless I'm extremely hot and right
Yeah.
before I'm about to pass out. That's when I know I get it, because then I'm like not like my
Man.
throat swelling up and I'm getting all these bumps all over me, and then my body starts to go basically into like an anaphylactic kind of shock where I can't breathe. It swells everything up. My blood slows down. It's pretty gnarly. My watch actually caught me the other day when I was golfing. Stupidly enough, it was 115. Shouldn't be in golfing, but didn't drink water. Played the first 6 holes, and my watch started buzzing. I'm like, what the hell? Like my Apple Watch is buzzing, and I'm like, why is it doing that? And it was telling me that my blood pressure was so low, my oxygen level was low. And I'm like, whoa, thank God I set those alarms from way back when I was sick. Thank God that I set those
Yeah.
alarms and started reminding me, and I like look up because, I could have died. I looked over at my boss and he's like, dude, you all right? I'm like, no, I need to sit down and I'm going to pour some water on me. And
Yeah.
it affects everybody differently. Like the ex-wife gets hives, turns all red, and her throat swells like a change of degree between like 5 to 8 degrees. It's bad for her. For
How about
me,
the
it's got
kiddos? Do they both have it
Phoenix.
then? Do the kids
No,
have it?
Phoenix has it. Ruby doesn't have it. Yeah. So
Really?
only my son took it.
Interesting.
Yeah, which they say it's usually a middle child or passed on by father genes to a son. So it's one of those things that kind of
Interesting.
it can skip around too, but um, it's just a weird thing. Like you're saying, like your skin reacts differently. Everyone's skin reacts differently to light, and if they're down that deep, I
Just to
mean,
light, yeah.
pressure alone, light and temperature, like would make a huge change. Could kill them. You know what I mean? Coming up, I mean, a lot of those creatures that come up,
And
not only light blinds them, but I mean, just the temperature change from freezing cold, like you're
the
talking about,
temperature,
or super
exactly.
heated and then super cold. Either way, it kills them.
Exactly. They would die down there, be eaten by a creature that's a bottom feeder before it even floats up to be ever found by us. And that's with that one idea. There's also, you know, uh, some of those worm, tube worms that live near the volcanic vents, they're living not just in a superheated environment, but quite literally because of how concentrated with minerals that this water is being on an open vent, that this isn't water that you and I can touch. We might get
Right.
burned. This is
Acidic
borderline
pH, yeah.
acidic, or
Super
maybe it's
high
just so
pHing, yeah.
alkaline. Whatever those creatures aren't going to survive in just whatever.
Yeah,
They
and
need
standard
high
issue
heat.
water, right?
They need volcanic infused freshly by the second volcanic infused water. I'm just saying, I don't know. Again, I'm going to say I'm not a scientist. I don't know what it takes to make them survive in other places. I know where it seems that they've developed and been surviving lately. I don't think, a fish can't breathe air. I can't breathe water. I bet that thing can't survive away from what I
Whatever it's
consider
supposed to
poison.
be in. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Other fish can't go
Yeah.
down there without dying. It's the same thing. So, whether there's different barriers or densities, you want to think about it like floating the different liquors on your drink and everything. There's different worlds. There's different worlds on this planet. The deeper and the higher you go. You know what I mean? Trees don't grow on parts of mountains that are higher above. There's tree levels, and it depends on what tree. There's different atmospheres. We do have a much more alien world, than, and that's not in the way that people always like to use it, where then they just see other people as more alien, because I don't think people are more alien, but the actual places that we've learned to develop. I mean, alien environments. and when you go underwater, you find other alien environments. There's those places right on where the two
Right.
oceans meet, the Atlantic and the Pacific, where it's like a constant. It's like moving water because it's constantly shifting salinity or something. It's like one of the only places in the world where a shark doesn't have to swim. A shark can sit still because
It's got to
of
move
blah
around
blah
them,
blah
right?
blah blah. And there's a place in Oregon where when I'm looking down the mountain, the way I'm standing makes me think I'm looking up, and so they built funny place, you know what I mean? And it's whether it is actual vortexes or the explanation about just the way the mountain is, whatever. You know what? To us, some people, it's a giant fucking illusion. It's just a beak
All about
screaming from
perception,
that
right?
squid over there. And to other people, when the multi-legged demon came out of hell, it made a sound that, no, he's not explaining it right.
Right.
I don't know
No,
what
no, no, you
what a
don't get
giant squid is, but it didn't make a eek sound. It said my name. It said
Right,
my
said, "You'll
mother's
float down
maiden
here
name.
too."
Yeah. Come, we all float down here.
We all
We
float down
all
here.
float. It's our call out for Pennywise. And there you go.
Right.
And now I know that we've skipped a few episodes, but I am going to have my conspiracy that the Kraken was real and the Kraken was Pennywise the clown. But
The whole float thing's
Stephen
starting to make more sense.
it all makes more sense. It's all about
Big
floating,
open
not
mouth
just
in that movie too. I'm saying
Mm-hmm. Stephen King, if you
shapeshifter.
read,
Why not?
Why not? That's why they disappear,
Why not?
right? Maybe
That's why it disappears. Yeah,
Maybe
turned into something
maybe
you're
it's a
normal
skinwalker the
or
whole
your regular
time.
seeing. Whoa,
Maybe it's a skinwalker.
deep, deep
I,
one now.
I've never seen a skinwalker and one of the
Or have
deep
you?
bloops in the same place at the same time. Maybe I
Or
did.
have you?
Maybe it was the Mothman. Maybe it was
Oh,
the light in the
God.
sky that was being the deep guy. Yeah,
Something
I
I'm
think,
looking at too about this bloop. They're saying that
yeah,
there's been recorded sound of them. Did you see that? I'm like, what?
yeah,
Like recently?
yeah. That's what I
Wow.
got started on. That's how I started off.
Interesting.
Like this whole thing is only the bloop started out like the pictures you see of the
The
bloop
size, yeah,
are
the
not
size are
a
trying to
real
say,
picture.
right? Of course, they're like
There's a
they think
sound
that
that
something
was heard.
that big, yeah, that big would have to be 77 meters or 250 feet large to be heard that loud from far away, which is enormous.
That's
You're
enormous.
talking, you're talking cruise ship.
We're talking about Godzilla. Yeah, you know what I mean.
You're talking literally about like a cruise ship size animal underwater. Like how
Hey, I've gone ahead.
They would have to be, like you're saying, living in the deep, dark ocean, like the deepest or interior ocean, like you're saying. That's the only way we wouldn't be seeing them all the time, because at 250 feet, you got to be pretty deep down to not be heard by sonar and everything,
It's gonna be, again, that's what makes me think about all the bouncing and stuff. You're even just traveling far,
the echoing,
and the distortion of the echoing and everything. I just put up our scan code. If anyone wanted to call in, it's https://rb.gy/FGAOSI. Or you can scan to call, or you can click it, and then you could call us and then tell us what you are afraid of in the water, or what you're not afraid of, because it doesn't believe until you're out there and it's looking at you with its one eye and its beak, and it sounds like it said your name. Yeah, call in.
This is new news, just came in, by the way. I'm reading this right now. 1997. Hang on, let me pull it up.
Hot off the presses. 1997. Hot off the presses. Here we are. And yes, if anyone is curious about the call in, if you are watching as well, it's also posted in the description.
Okay, now hear this. Yeah, callers, listen to this new one.
Yes. There we
1997,
go.
the bloop on hydrophones across the Pacific. It was a large, ultra low frequency sound that was heard at listening stations underwater at over 5,000 kilometers apart. And one of the mysterious noises picked up by the National Oceanic or Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, NOAA. Several articles in the years followed polarizing one suggestion that the bloop might have been a sound from an unknown animal due to organic nature of the noise.
Oh,
A theory that
you
elevated
just
the
cut
bloop.
out. Your sound
Am I
cut
sorry?
it out.
Can you hear me?
Your sound cut out. Yes, I do
Can you hear
now.
me now?
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Basically, long story short, they believe it was a piece of ice sliding off into the ocean off of a giant glacier.
And again, like I was saying about tentacles ripping wood apart, the sound of that screeching and tearing and being afraid of what you're seeing. You know, when you're looking at a camera that is showing you no visibility 5 feet in front of you and you hear that sound, it's the same thing about, you hear a loon out while you're camping and you wonder if it was a giant demon bird. It's a little thing, you know what I mean? And people get all scared. It's like your first thought
the
goes to what
wildest
demon creature was that, and the most rational explanation.
To your point,
it's the sound of ice.
After that, the sound of ice. The sound of ice was heard.
I would believe
this is three different organizations heard the same sound, so started confirming that the sound actually happened. Then in 2 years after that, they heard the sound again, and then in New Zealand, a brand new whale, which they believe is a super young version whale or baby, of a whale, wash up on the beach. So then they started equating the sound to this whale that they've never seen, and it's a baby, they think, because obviously like the way that it looked, and it got spun all out of control. Like everybody started saying this is a brand new thing, brand new whale, and if this is a baby, it's already 30 feet long. Babies grow usually 10 to 100% larger. That would put it at 250 feet to 500 feet. Like, man, that's a crazy perspective story. You know what I mean? Like, we heard a sound. This thing washed up. Oh my God, this was a thing that washed up that made the sound. Like, and then it just goes out of control. This story comes about these bloop creatures, that's wild.
And it really ends up just being circumstance about like, all right, these things kind of happened around the same time.
Yeah, it was like close to each other, and they're not saying that 100% sure that they know it wasn't a creature, but they're like, look at all this stuff that's happening that is all in the same time. It's all circumstantial, but everybody's reading it like this is real, this happened.
Yeah. Let's see here. We're going to take just a quick break and be back in about 2 minutes, 3 tops. Thank you. and returning backness, because that's where we are. Thank you so much.
Welcome back.
For not making me, yeah. I'd like to applaud my co-host Elgin. He and I always do 2 straight hours, and it seems like that might have been maybe one time before that the pre-stream stream wasn't enough to hold me over, and now that we know that, I applaud the resolve of my friend's internal organs.
That's the beauty of having a camera this high. I just pee underneath. It's fine.
Got to get a bucket. See,
Right?
you can always learn a lot from
I'm
your
not even
service
wearing
technician.
pants.
Yeah.
I'm like everybody during Zoom when they were working, just shirts only.
I need to make it to level 2 already. I don't know what's wrong with me over here. Belt like an asshole. You know what I mean? Anyway, so back to that underwater bloop thing. As you were saying, it sounds like a lot of things kind of lined up, right place, right time. We got a funny picture. Let me rephrase that. Got a trippy ass video. And then now we also, around the same time, we get this noise. And this noise makes people think that it's gotta be the same thing.
Gotta be the same. Yep.
Yeah. I don't like that. And that's where that is kind of what I was thinking was going to happen, especially when I typed in bloop and what I was seeing looked like the thing that I thought was completely unrelated, which was I thought that little megalodon kind of flounder, the flounderodon, or I don't know what it was. To me, I thought it looked like almost like a flounder, like a bottom feeder, you know, and
Huh. Okay.
not all the way. Because
Well, I mean, if you figure 250 feet, it's going to be dragging the bottom if you're able to see it.
and that's what I mean. When you see it, it is dragging itself on the bottom, and even though it does have the head, it looks like a shark. Obviously, I don't know what the hell to think if it's dragging itself on the ocean floor and stirring up a mess. It was a wild thing, but yeah, I'm glad that what you had just found shows that the most likely explanation of the bloop is the sound of ice sheets tearing from itself. And it does that, you know. When I pour water on top of ice, I hear crick crick crack crack crack. When the ice is, it happens. It happens. That's what
imagine
it does.
that
And
in
it's gonna
like
make it
giant continent-size ice. You know what I mean? Out in the ocean,
exactly. You know, imagine like giant
and then it
continental
echoing,
shift.
like you're
And the other
saying,
thing
echoing
too,
off of the floor, off of the walls, off of everything else. It's going to
exactly,
change sound. You know what I mean?
everything. And it
Yeah.
makes you wonder, how long was this one sound been echoing? Could this sound have been echoing for a week, a month, and making it so that nothing is really sounding, because it is distorted. But the microphones that they're using deep down are so sensitive because they're trying to pick up stuff. Look, it's funny. We started doing this, and I kind of had this idea, like I almost have the Fox Mulder, everything is spooky natural, and you're gonna be my Scully and tell me to look for the, you know. By the way, all right, I wanted to make a joke and say that you're prettier, but damn, I mean, Gillian Anderson is just
I mean,
like,
don't be ridiculous.
hi, Jillian. Anyway, my wife is my favorite, number one. So stop calling.
Good
Jillian.
save.
So stop calling. No,
Safe.
I'm joking. You can call. We should all hang out. It'd be nice. Yeah. No, it seems like I feel pretty skeptical. I feel like I'm a lot more skeptical. I'm not so much like a true believer like I thought. I'd love to just.
It depends on
everything.
the interaction or whatever we're talking about. I'm generally
it depends on what it is.
I always
yeah.
want to believe, but I'm like certain things. I'm like, get out of here, because I haven't had experiences, or I don't have the fondness of it. So I find myself like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? Trying to like justify it in my head and rationalize it in my head when I can actually just enjoy it. I do. enjoy every interaction or every story, because that's why we started the podcast too, to hear stories and hear everybody
Yeah.
tell their stories of it, because sometimes that makes
I mean,
me
it's
believe, where
fascinating.
I'm like, actually, you know what, especially from friends or strangers that have so much detail, I'm like, ooh, that sounds pretty freaking real, if you ask me.
You know, weird things do happen, and I think that at some point in time, science would allow us to explain damn near everything. But you know, we've also approached that time where, with quantum science, quantum physics, or whatever, you know, just and we brought this up before, the tools we use to measure are affecting the outcomes.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's so small
The
that
tools are
the
being
proper
changed
way to
because
find.
of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and so we don't even have we don't even have we're not even at the technological level to do the things that we know exist yet. And
It's
so,
funny that you said that. I was actually watching a scientist talk about that, and he was saying it's
mhm,
kind of like sharpening a knife. Every time you sharpen the knife, you
mhm,
cut off a piece of whatever you're sharpening to make that knife
mhm,
sharper. And then you learn more about that piece and you get sharper every time, over and
mhm.
over. You can't just pass a blade over something once and expect it to now be fixed and sharp. You have to do it over and
Yep,
over and over and cut it off into
it's
little
over and over
sections
and over.
so you can understand it. I was like, damn, that's a cool way of
Absolutely.
thinking about how we don't understand something. You know, he's like, think about going into the ocean. They went one
You
foot
got to
down,
chip it
then
away.
2 foot down, and
Yeah.
they didn't just jump in and like go, you know what I mean? Go to the bottom, go, oh, what's this at the bottom? Like, who cares? There's stuff all the way in between there that you're missing, you know what I mean? And all that stuff affects
Yeah.
the bottom, kind of a thing. So that's an interesting way you bring
I
that
mean,
up.
just the way they had to figure out about what is it, hydrogen poisoning or anything, you know, getting the bends, coming up too fast
Yeah,
from deep
yeah,
water.
yeah.
Whoever figured out the proper way to, like, I mean, honestly, again, when I think about my respect for the ocean, I don't want to go that deep even. I don't know. It's cool. I'd like to. I don't
Yeah, I got a
know.
respect
That's
for
not
that
the.
too. Where that's
I
my
re-
thought too. Like, I would want to try it
yeah,
once and not that deep. I wouldn't want to go like, you know,
yeah,
Mariana's Trench kind of deep. I want to go 100 feet maybe
right.
and pop. And I want to be down there for 10 minutes with assurance that it's not gonna nothing, you know, can possibly go wrong. So with that being known, I probably never go down
The only way
because
you're
there's
ever
no
gonna get
assurances.
me, the only way you're ever gonna get me at the bottom of the ocean is if the rest of my crew is Samuel L. Jackson, Sharon Stone, Dustin Hoffman, and Liev Schreiber. And
Nope. Are you crazy?
no, you're not going.
I
You're
know
not
where you're
going.
going. Definitely not. One of the
You're
scariest
not going.
movies ever.
I thought it was the feel
It
good
messed
movie
with
of the
my
summer.
imagination. That's why it messed with my
It,
imagination to the point where I was like, I am unsure.
I think I saw it at the right age to where, like, I never had that thing where kids stop imagining. But here's the problem. Um, Sorry, I thought I saw a squirrel for a second. So what were we talking
Shiny.
about?
Is it shiny, huh?
Gotcha. So yeah, there's
Right.
that. I do imagine things pretty vividly, almost as if I was still a kid sometimes. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
don't
see,
want to anymore. Not all the
I'm
time.
the
Not all the
I'm
time.
the other side of that coin where I can't stop imagining. So once I'm going, this roller
Yeah.
coaster is only downhill. There is no other direction. I'm like thinking of 8,000 scenarios. I'm thinking of the ending of the movie. I'm thinking of how many times in different ways it could end and change. And it'll drive me nuts. It'll drive me to straight fear because I'm like, all right, now I've thought about this for the past 5 hours. It's 2 a.m. I can't sleep because I'm scared because I'm laying in my bed where I'm safe, but I'm thinking about all the things that could get me the next time I go in the water. It's insane.
I worry about jellyfish. Even, you know, jellyfish like to come up close to the shore.
Yeah,
They
surface
do
to the surface
sometimes.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, even I'm not saying I'm afraid of the bloop or a kraken or anything. I don't think I'm ever going to be in a position to need to be, like, allowing myself to even be afraid of those things. Like, you know
yeah.
what I
I'm not
mean?
saying
Like,
like I'm afraid, but I'm like well, I am saying I'm afraid because of my imagination. Like I will spin something up to where I'm like, whoa, this is like the ultimate fear. Like, you know what I mean? As opposed to just what happened on the screen. My brain allows me to run
yeah,
with it, I guess.
I I don't know. I guess I never put myself in the position to be the one finding out. I just always am just like, when I continue to read the research of what they find out, I'm going to feel much more satisfaction later on. It's not like, I'm imagining I'm
You
the
don't have to be
guy.
out there.
I've
Yeah.
got my knife and I bit onto it and dove over the boat and I just swam. I swam deep into Mother Ocean till I saw the beast. Not like that. Yeah, I don't imagine
Right?
it like that.
No,
It's
I'm
not
good.
like
Tell
I'm
me
coming
about
face
it.
to face with it. Even in my wildest imaginations, it's always like, yeah. And then the new report came out, and Dr. So-and-so, he said that when they found the corpse of it, that the DNA says that no, it actually was just a very regular animal.
See, it's funny that you say that. Like, have you seen that new movie too? Speaking of movies again, um, damn it, I forgot what it's called. It's on Netflix. It's like Sea Monsters or something like that. It's an animated film.
No, a new Sea Monsters movie?
It's great.
No,
It's
I have
actually
not.
great. Watch it. It's ridiculous. I was watching it and I thought, oh man, this is a Disney movie. And then I was like, wait, they were just in a tavern drinking beer. I'm like, wait, he said, damn, this ain't Disney. And I had to like look at this is on Netflix, an animated movie with booze and damn and life and death. I was like, wow, I forgot that Netflix could do that. You know what I mean? It's a great little movie. And it's about sea monsters too. It's not exactly like what we're thinking, but like same idea. They're like, sea creature hunters. Pretty cool, actually. You should check it out. And all my viewers too, all our viewers, we should check them out and see that movie. It's pretty funny. Good for kids to watch. My kids watched it with me. Yeah, it was wild. Like, it was one of those kind of movies where it made me think like, okay, they kind of explained like how they thought sea creatures were bad and they weren't, kind of a thing. But it's like that, like you're explaining, like, man, it could be the Kraken or it could just be a really curious what do you call it, squid on the boat. You know what I mean? The boat now, or the squid, is so high up to the surface that it doesn't know what the hell is going on. It's just looking around and it happens to put a tentacle on the boat and now everybody freaks out. You know what I mean? Circumstances happen just like that. And and just like they created the bloop and all that information, like, look at all that stuff that fell into place for this creature to be a thing.
Yeah. I always come back to certain things. I think that there's a couple recurring themes so far in all of our episodes. I've noticed that I tend to think that the human brain is, I think, about 50% of our experience. It doesn't matter what subjective reality or what objective reality is happening to us at the same time. I think that there's something about the way two people are different and individual. And I guess, I very much do believe that people are all individuals. And, to a point where I don't even think that two people can even really believe the same exact concept in the exact same way. When two people, they go to the same church on Sundays, I still think that if you ask them a particular poignant question about a certain topic, that there may become a little debate for two guys that thought for the last few years that they, you know what I mean? And that's all I mean. And I'm not saying that to call into question anything about anything except for just a basic humanity, unless it's 1 + 1 = 2. I think the perception becomes involved. And then even then, Trig says 3.
Yeah,
so,
I was say,
you know what I mean?
People in Trig and all that. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, again, even within math, you have to be able to use imaginary numbers to achieve things. You have to have false truths that
negatives,
you're allowing yourself to believe, false negatives and false beliefs just for this moment, just so that I can get to the next step. Because I can prove that with a physical machine, but without this imaginary number that doesn't really exist anywhere except by necessity of this science.
Sure.
Do you see what I mean?
To fit the need. Yeah.
I get
that
almost relates to that relates to chaos magic. In a way, the ability to take on whatever belief you need for this moment in time, and tomorrow, if you need different beliefs, You don't have to feel bad that you do not believe the same thing as yesterday, basically. And there's a lot of other weird things, but like psychology comes heavily into play in even math, because if you told yourself no, 2 plus 2 is all 1 plus 1 is always 2, so trigonometry is wrong, well then you're just not getting past day 1 in class.
Yeah, you're not going to be
you
able
know?
to progress. Yeah, it's fine.
You've got to
That's
be able
funny.
to say, all right, in this class it's different. You got to allow
Right.
the different
A
mindset,
progression,
the
yeah.
different perception. Yeah. And that gets added on to every picture that people take. Before that, it gets added on to every description that sailors would come back and tell us, we know that whales and mammals all make they all make these loud and
Whale
almost
song, yeah.
haunting whale song, and they would attribute that maybe to sirens or whatever, which,
Sirens, and yeah, for sure.
and
That's actually
and
one of the creatures
somehow,
I saw too.
and so I would like to hear what you found about sirens. I'm actually a big fan of sirens as well.
I didn't really do that much research. There's like 5 of them that I just kind of glanced over, like sirens and mermaids, that sort of thing. There is a distinction between the two. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They are
completely different. That's what I was gonna
I never really
say
like
too. I was wondering if you'd got there.
Yeah, I never actually, before was doing research, I never really noticed or thought about them not being the same, and they are completely different creatures, excuse me.
Yeah, what's really interesting to me, I'm actually a big fan of Greek mythology. A lot of my interest and even base knowledge comes from just years of, I guess, being randomly interested in ancient mythology. And then because of that, I also grew up with, alien shit popping up everywhere, and, Bigfoot and Squatchers. I mean, it's been everywhere, and it's fascinated me more. But the core, a lot of it, since I was a little kid, ancient mythology. And what's funny is there are sirens and there are mermaids too, kind of, in Greek mythology, but sirens are more like harpies. They're feathered. They're like birds.
They're way worse.
They're and they tear you apart. They tear the men apart. But then mermaids, I think, depending on where,
can go both ways.
Kind of mermaid can usually equally vicious for different reasons. I
was going to say different reasons for it too. Yeah, one is more of a predatory thing. The other one is more of a feelings thing. It was kind of interesting, or like a territorial thing with mermaids.
And mermaids, they seem to be much more of a supernatural creature.
It's not so much of a just like an oceanic creature or oceanic animal. It's more of a supernatural being.
A bird that hangs out. Exactly. They're usually a ghost of a maiden died in this body of water, and they rise. It's very, La Llorona type
ethereal
sounds, right? Yeah, you know what I mean? The lady in white, the drowned bride, the mother searching for La Llorona for the children, those type of, it's more reminiscent of those when it comes to, a scorned woman, or some weird old folk tale, type of setting for the mermaid. But then they have, in our modern day, we kind of mix those two up. So that is another one where
a lot of times
them with the,
I think because they have beautiful voice. Exactly. I was gonna say, we have like Little Mermaid, stuff like that, where she sings and you're like, oh, exactly. Siren song. I get it. The idea. It's like,
she's pretty. She should have a pretty voice.
I'm like, two different things. And I read it up like, whoa.
She probably is what sounds like that Kraken.
Exactly. What's that beautiful sound? And shredded. Also, they have claws and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting. Like mer people, I guess, don't have that, is what you would call them, mer people.
I'm trying to think about what there is. I believe it begins with a D. There's a name for mermaids, and it's not oceanic mermaids. This one is more of the river mermaids. This is why I didn't do too much mermaid looking up, because having looked into mermaids before, I know that there's many different the Drua, Druna, I can't remember. I believe there's a Slavic tale of basically lake/river mermaids, and that one relates to the spirits of women who, for one or another reason, that was the last place they were, and so that one I didn't do too much looking into mermaids, but that one did pop in my mind because I wanted to. I was thinking about sirens. I'm glad you brought it up because I couldn't stop thinking about it, but I wasn't sure if I was going to try to focus on things that are probably more realistic, or at one time, Megalodon we know was real. We found
it's been confirmed.
Jaws.
Jaws,
so
teeth,
whether or not there's
all
one
kinds of stuff.
surviving right now, that's not an issue. There was one once. Even these lake monsters, these brontosaurus, the plesiosaurs that people think are in all these lakes. You know what? I'm not worried about right now. I know that at one point in time there were a variety of creatures very similar to this.
It's just like you were talking about the other week, the Makole Mbembe, like same kind of idea, like
Makole Mbembe, yeah.
Basically, like they basically like they found remains of water dinosaurs in Africa, and they think basically they could walk from land to land because there's not, or from land to ocean because there's not a whole lot of lakes out there where they found them. You know what I mean? And or that area had to be covered in water.
Not anymore.
Yeah, that area had to be covered in water before. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one of those things like they had to been able to walk somewhat, or that whole thing was underwater. And just the way that they kind of describe some of the bones sounds like gigantic walruses, you know what I mean? Or gigantic brontosauruses, you know what I mean? But with seal feet or whale or walrus feet, you know what I mean? So they could essentially walk around on land.
And I mean, honestly, dolphins, whales, when you look inside their fins, they're giant hands because they're mammals.
They have phalanges, mammals.
They were once fingers or paws or whatever. You know what I mean?
Or are turning into, depending upon how you look at evolution.
Depending
start
on
to finish,
how,
finish to start.
You know what? With the idea of evolution, I guess in its purest form, at any point in time, with the right conditions, any one of us can start to shift into something else, right? Slowly but surely.
Start to finish, finish to start, kind of a theory thing. That also brings up another creature that I was looking up. The Champ. Did you hear about this one?
Champ. You're talking about Champ from Lake Champlain?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know.
That's pretty interesting. So apparently,
lot of these. Ogopogo, I know a lot of these American ones too. America really, really wants a Loch Ness monster, and Canada too.
Yeah, I was like, why is it such a thing?
A lot. They want.
Okay, you noticed that too, right?
We want a monster. Yeah, everybody wants one. Everybody wants the Loch Ness monster. Nessie's got to be here too.
20 different types of Loch Ness monsters in the United States. I was like, I started to list them, and I'm like, no, this is stupid. It's just getting like obscene. They literally named it the champ one is one that I marked down because I was like, it's funny that they just didn't want to use the lake name. Come on.
Lake Champlain. Well, Ogopogo is, I believe, from Lake Ogopogo or something, maybe. Or there's Ogopogo. Let's see. There's Champ. I think there's a Bessie, not even fucking around. I think there's a Bessie. There might be a Lessie, a Tessie. I think there's a Tessie for sure. Look up Tessie maybe. Look up all the Essies. We can go A through Z, skip the vowels, and then Essie. And I think that any of the Essies, we should find an American lake where they say they got it, right? And yeah, these are lake monsters too.
Dropkick Murphy song.
What, Nessie or what?
Tessie.
Well,
Big
for
in the
those of
Red
you
Sox
out there,
territory.
yeah, listen to that, and I had my day. You know, I
But
used to
you
wear
are
my
correct.
Flog and Molly shirt.
Tessie, Lake Tahoe.
Tessie? Okay.
Yep, Lake Tahoe.
Tahoe. Fucking Tahoe. Tahoe thinks they got a Essie?
They have a bar and grill in Lake Tahoe based upon Lake Tahoe's Tessie creature.
I'm not trying to be a hater or like a gatekeeper
I love
or
it.
whatever it is people say by any means. I'm just kind of shocked. I just think that that's like, isn't that like, yo, spring break, guess where we got the pontoon? That's
going to
right. Tahoe.
Watch out for
That's what I think of
Tessie.
Tahoe. Watch out for Tessie's not coming
Don't
up
forget
in
Tessie.
the getting stoked for spring break or whatever, right? Like, oh yeah, I can't
Right.
wait, but watch out for the lake monster. Bro, that's not funny. You know that, like, I'm not going to have any fucking fun now. Why'd you say that to me? I'm neurotic.
Right,
I'm
you
weird.
ruined
Why'd
it
you say
for
that?
me.
You
sicko.
ruined Tahoe for me. Like, I think that there should be, like, all right, Loch Ness, you can put your hand in Loch Ness and you can't, if it's like, if you go elbow deep, you can't see your wrist anymore. Okay, it's
Yeah,
murky.
not clear. Yeah, not clear.
So like, yeah, it's scary right off the bat. And there's a big demon in there. Psh,
Well,
I believe
don't
it.
know. I wouldn't say demon.
But Tahoe's
All right,
for
Tahoe.
hanging. You know what I mean.
And Tahoe, have you been in
I'll
that
tell you
water?
what.
Freezing.
Hey,
oh my
when
god.
Nessie grabs your feet, when you're on the inner tube of Loch Ness and you feel
You tell me that thing
that
ain't a demon, huh?
when you feel that Bubba, and then you
Right.
feel that tug, and it's like the beginning of Jaws, and then you tell me if that's not a demon at that point in time. Nessie will be
I guess.
your final demon, right?
Fear makes
Famous
you
last
believe.
words. Nessie's not a demon. Oh,
Right.
blah 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 blah. One
And
of
then,
those.
and then Cappy does this on the beach with his sunglasses. Where's Elgin?
He
Huh.
and then your head floats
We're at
up, and I
Tessie
go,
Beach. I
oh,
don't
he
know
looks
what the
good.
hell happened. He's
Yeah,
flailing.
I'll
Hey,
just look
you're
out.
having a good time.
Hey, pal, I'm gonna lay back
Look how
down.
much he's having a good time.
Night,
Well, he sure
Night,
is
buddy.
crashing pretty good.
man. You got some powerful legs to kick up that high. Right?
Elgin's found fish friends. Look, there's tentacles in the water. He
What?
loves them. He's being
Why'd
hugged.
you go swimming with so much red dye?
Right. You should have took that dye out of your pocket before you went swimming, bud.
No, ladies and gentlemen, let me make sure it's said right here and right now. I will in that moment be the man who I'm gonna grab onto my knife and bite onto it. Then I'll dive off the boat and swim into the water, and then I'll meet the beast.
I have a particular
For
set
my
of
friend
skills.
Elgin. But of course, then as I pull Elgin out of the water, I say, Elgin, stay with me, bud, stay with me. Remember when you said it wasn't a demon? Stay with
Remember,
me,
it
stay
didn't
with
seem
me.
like a demon.
Remember?
Huh?
Remember? Didn't seem like
How
a demon,
demony does it
bud.
feel, huh?
I'm gonna go swimming in Loch Ness. And
Right.
guess what, Elgin? And in the story, I still sound like a bad guy for being on the water. But I tried
You
telling
said
you
no-
not to go in.
You said everybody goes here. What the hell? I trusted you, Cap. I trusted you.
Just
You knew I'm a
saying.
desert rat too. What the hell, man?
You're a well-traveled man.
There's no Lake Mead. Yeah, I am well
Jet
traveled. I've been to Loch Ness actually. Funny enough, and it is
There you
freezing
go.
cold
But
and
did you-
murky as hell. It looks like Lake
Did you see
Mead,
anything
but
interesting?
worse. No, actually, there's
Lake
a tour
Mead's
that we
scary.
took.
Lake Mead's
We
scary.
took a tour, and they have like it all not faked. I don't want to say faked. That sounds terrible, but they have a tour where they have like sonar and they go around and they just do like a 2-hour kind of a circling and around in the middle. And they're like, oh, wow, look at this. It's a big open area. It's like, yeah, you pass over this. How many times when you're doing this tour? Why are you acting shocked? No one believes you when you act shocked and you've been doing this for how many years long? You know what I mean? Like, come on, guy. It feels like
I think
you remember the ride at Disneyland, the Amazon cruise?
the Jungle Cruise.
Jungle Cruise, excuse me. Yeah, that's how it felt.
Yeah, that's why
Where
they
they're
made the
like,
movie.
Look, they're
That's
like,
how
look out. And you're like, yeah. You did that a little too early.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's coming.
You missed your cue there, buddy.
And speaking of Lake Mead, this is not the ocean, but creatures of the deep, things in the deep. There's a lake in Las Vegas that for about 20 years there used to be jokes, and everyone had the same jokes.
They weren't jokes. It was tongue
they're
in
not
cheek.
Jokes.
It was tongue in cheek.
It was, everyone would make the joke. Are you going to go out to Lake Mead? Or either, nah, I'm not going to go swim with those dead mobsters. Or, I get sick with all them dead bodies in there. And I won't lie. I've been to Lake Mead 2 or 3 times tops, and I've lived there on and off 20-something years, right? I got sick every time I went there. I felt like shit.
Well, that's because they dumped
at the same time, I feel inoculated.
Well, think about it.
I feel inoculated.
They dumped rocket fuel for 25 years in it before they got caught. At one point, Lake Mead was flammable.
Stronger for it.
How crazy is that? Wow. At one point, Lake Mead was flammable.
Okay. Can you imagine if Lake Mead caught flame?
Could you imagine? Talk about perception and fear. The water is on fire. This is the end of times.
On fire.
Every Bible thumping, freaked out person. The water is on fire in Vegas. The city of sin is on fire.
Justification.
That city is the hellhole. You know what I mean? Which it's closer to Boulder City, by the way. I don't like Boulder City as much, but that's personal.
A little bit less, right? A little bit less.
Just personal. It's not my thing.
Personal stuff.
Yeah, but burning lake of fire, I'm pretty sure that's in a lot of Bibles. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely in there. And with all the things that we spill in the water, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that, we would ever make the Godzilla. Like, the old Godzillas seem to indicate that it was nuclear weapons that caused radioactivity for,
But I don't know if you notice every time anything's exposed to radioactive, it doesn't get stronger. It does the opposite.
Cancer. It gets cancer and dies. Yeah.
It gets the dead, not the stronger.
And going back to even some really ancient things that I've always been fascinated with, with old mythology, for many years, people would say things about, ancient Sumerian tablets and say like, oh, well, some of this looks like invoices. Like we got cedar wood from the mountains and what will be Lebanon one day. We got, lapis lazuli from the those Egyptians, over, across the sea. Which is, the Persian Gulf, right? Across the sea. We got, and then they would say, oh, and then from, the underworld, which, is like the southern hemisphere, like the lower world or something.
Yeah.
Gotcha. They'd be pulling up like uranium and whatever. They didn't have like a word when they first translated it. We didn't know about uranium in like the early 1900s. So when they were reading it, they just kind of translated it as like, magic blue rocks that make you sick, and they were like, nope, these are all bullshit. There's no such thing as magic blue rocks that make you sick. But then, like, if you put like this, if you read what the sickness is burns under the skin without fire, nails and teeth and hair and falling out,
radioactive stuff, traits,
dying. It's radioactive poisoning, and we know for a fact about uranium and cobalt. I mean, we use depleted cobalt for shotgun stocks or whatever, right? Shotgun.
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like cobalt, it's blue. It's one of the blue colors that we use to refer to blue, cobalt, and it is a metal that is not as heavily as uranium.
Let me make sure.
But it's not uranium. It is not gonna, but it
still irradiated.
If you do nothing, if you live in a what's your family do? Oh, I'm 5th generation cobalt miner. I bet.
It's like, wow, you were able to have babies?
Yeah, it's like, our town has our town is very proud of our 28-year life expectancy.
Right, exactly. Most of us make it past 25. Pretty good.
Yeah. Grandma's 37.
Right.
She's
It's like
37 years
she's
old.
lived a life,
Grandma, are
man.
you okay? And she looked like 90 in our world. You know what I mean? Like yeah, if you
Skin
live
like a
around
baseball
that,
glove.
I mean, and that's not because of genetics, that's because of radiation. But we know
Not
that there was
sunbathing,
this
radiation.
radiation. I forgot how I got on this, but again, perception and they kind of threw these things out. I'm not saying what they were using it for. I don't have a fucking clue, right? Who knows what they were using it for? They also had access to naphtha and bitumen, you know what I mean? And I don't know what they need with the raw resources for rocket fuels and stuff. I don't know what they need it for. I also know that they invented perfumes, so they knew
Yeah,
about
we
distillation. What you
yeah,
apply to fermented fruits, you could apply to tar and bitumen, and
yeah,
you
the
can make
reason why
rocket
you got
fuel
on the
back
subject was
then.
we're talking about flaming waters and just waters being murky
Flaming
and all that.
waters,
You know what I mean? And being
water murkies.
disgusting.
And then I
Like
and
and
then
like
I
you're saying,
heavily
Lake Mead
murky
now
the
actually
waters with yeah,
they're finding all these dead bodies coming up now in cars and
exactly.
boats and all kinds of stuff because the lake is dropping super far. It's down like 30, I think it was 38 feet is the last thing I heard. Which
That's
when I was a
wild.
kid, when I was a kid, like I have pictures of the dam spilling over because the
Mm-hmm.
spillways were open, which like didn't happen, and it won't happen. They're saying for the next like 200-300 years, I think, because they'll never be that full again, which is insane to
We
think.
would
I mean,
need
we would need
some
torrential
kind
Noah's
of
Ark style
yeah.
flooding or rainfall. I mean, for it to happen. So yeah, I don't know. And then that
No,
would make it just
hey,
easier for all these creatures to come up. You know what I mean? Come up from
what
the
do you think
deep
about
again.
me taking us on a bit of a tangent and thinking about I mean, Las Vegas means, in like
The Mesa
strict Spanish means the meadows.
Meadows, excuse me, yeah, Meadows Mesa,
The meadows, but it's a
right?
desert now. So at
Well,
some
that's because
point
there was
in
only water here.
a history that's only remembered with the name, right? Like, what do you think it would take to get water coming there again? That's what I mean. Like, what do you think it would take
Super
to
bad
properly
torrential
get
rainfall.
water
I mean,
there?
we're in a bowl, so it'd be rainfall. That's the only way we get water. We don't get water from outside source besides rainfall coming from somewhere else down through the river or direct rainfall because we're in a giant volcanic basin.
I don't think that the desert landscaping is the right way to go. I think the desert landscaping is like encouraging
Doing
desert.
the opposite. Yeah, doing the opposite.
I think
I kind of have that
I
theory
think
too,
that
but
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand. There's also the point about what we're talking about with the lake and
water
conservation
conservation.
has to happen in this place.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Well,
everyone
we
needs to
only
be
use
planting forests everywhere.
well the other
What are you
thing
going to do
too
when
is
they all
funny.
die? Now you got
There's
dead trees. So
Yeah, there was a report too that Las Vegas uses 2% of Lake Mead water. We're actually the only state this close to it that only uses 2%, and we're at like 58% water conservation, and that's like ridiculous for a giant city with all these pools, all these parks that we have, and we have water parks and stuff like that. Normally, are terrible with it, but we use reclaimed water, which most cities will not use. Like for all of our golf courses, speaking from that, like every pond in a golf course is reclaimed water. You're not allowed to don't stick your hand in there, don't drink it. There's
don't
signs
dive in.
everywhere.
Wow.
Don't get in it. Don't it's reclaimed. It is not potable by any source. And when you see some of them, it's like, holy shit, this is really close to the treatment facility. And then when you get out to like the golf courses way out far, all the water is really clean because it's longer for it to get there. It's running through more purification by the time it gets there. It's wild to see.
So the ones that are closer, do they stink? That's my curiosity.
Yes. Yeah. They have a sulfuric smell and a chemically smell because they get chemicals pumped into them. So they're not poisonous. So it's not like if you hit a ball in there, reach your hand in, you're reaching your hand into raw sewage. It's not that. It's just reclaimed and
I might have made mention of this
first or third filtered.
Yeah. I might have made mention of this last week, but when I was working in some film, a good friend of mine, when he got me some work, and we worked.
Yeah, you talked about last episode.
Last episode, the poop farm, and it looked like a nuclear facility. All right, just making sure. I'm like, wait, did I mention that last week? I think I did. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens after you flush. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna post even one picture. I deleted them. the fascination wore off. It was just gross. Anyway.
The other, I'll bring up a whole nother one. The monster that I deep dove into and really started doing research because I got excited by it. It's just a like interesting, ridiculous thing.
Yes.
It's called the Kappa, Japanese monster. Kappa,
Okay.
Kappa.
Kappa.
Yeah,
Is that the large snake like? Is it the large snake like one?
No,
or is
no,
that...
it's actually not that big. It's 5, so I'll give you some characteristics on it. It's also known as the water child or river child. The creatures are about 5. So
it's got the bowl head. It holds water in the bowl of its head.
The vessel.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's 5'10", web hands, web feet, scales and skin. Usually can be yellow, green, blue, sometimes yellow, very rarely. They're found yellow.
I think I was confusing them with the Nagas. And the Nagas,
yeah, slightly different.
Remember, I was talking about. I was thinking about bringing up Nagas on tonight.
Yeah,
I would have found out looking up Nagas that I was wrong, and what you're talking about, the Kappa.
Kappa, yeah. And they have turtle shells on their back, and they have bird-like beaks. Either like some are described as like puffin style beaks, and then others are described with like falcon or predatory or bird beaks. They have that indentation or vessel on the top of their heads, which holds like this special water. It's their source of power. It's pretty interesting. Like the only thing that they have to worry about,
water that they come up with. Yeah,
it's actually like they're
outside of the water. I thought because they have to keep the water.
They have to keep
so
the
they
water.
Can't spill the water, there. Or else they'll die. Right.
Right. Exactly. And the only way to defeat them, they only have two things that can defeat them.
To take all this away from you.
No, that's fine. Either you rip their arms off. Which, if you rip their arms off, because their arms are able to come off their bodies easily, they either have to barter with you by giving you knowledge, or they have to become your slave, or serve you. It basically is the idea of it until you're ready to give it back to them. But most of the time, they're very respectful and they'll give it. You can barter with them, and that's what they believe. A lot of our modern medicine came from them. Also, like learning how to reset bones because they can put their arms back on, whether they're broken or not. So that's why they believe over there that they taught us how to reset bones.
The fire gang.
That's what I thought too, actually, funny enough. I was like, man, I was thinking that Labyrinth. Yeah.
Right.
The other thing that's cool is you can barter with them about food. You can barter with them about like irrigation or like fishing tactics. And they say that a lot of the olden time fishing tactics were because of Kappa. The other thing that I really like, there's signs like still to this day in this town of Tono,
like Japan and stuff, right?
Yeah, in the prefecture of Tono.
Okay.
That say like, hey, be careful of this river or this lake because there are Kappa here. And some are funny, some are like silly. The others are like from the government. Yeah. It's like even the government is saying like, hey, watch out, there's Kappa in this water. So that brings me also to another thing. In May of 2014, they started displaying, and this is one of the only like weird creature things for this town. They started displaying remains of what they believe was a Kappa's remains. They have like the arm, a foot, a piece of the shell, and they're all pretty intact. And they're not like any other creature. It's like a child's hand and a child's webbed foot. It's pretty awesome that they have that, and they're like showing it off like, hey, this is proof that there's Kappa. And they like were able to like dig it out of this like sedimentary, almost concrete, because there was a giant flood. And then they were like, "Wow, look at this! What's happening?" And the other thing too,
that I will. I'll send you a quick request over on Discord. Yeah,
I'll send it to you.
I'm very fascinated to see that. Anytime, going down so many rabbit holes when it comes to giants. Most giant bodies are disproven. Others are claimed to have been stolen away by the evil Smithsonian, with their agenda.
Right.
But there's so many different things. But anytime there's a body to display, I mean, whether it's P.T. Barnum sewing a little monkey to a fish and calling it the Fijian mermaid, or people saying that this poor beat up dog, look at it, that's a beak. It's like, no, I don't know, that looks like a all the skin ripped off by another animal from a good
Right,
carcass.
hairless
And they say, nope,
bears,
it's the
that sort of thing.
Montauk creature, and the Montauk creature is a genetic creature from the Montauk's, lab and whatever. I want to see it. I always want to see it. I don't care
Yeah,
if
I'm
I end up
interested in
bleeding or
that sort
not.
of stuff
I'm
too.
fascinated in it.
I love
Yeah.
it too when like when the scientific like academy or scientific people come back and they're like, we don't know what it is. You can display whatever you want. We're not going to dispute it either because we don't know. And they're like, we'll take some
Yeah.
samples. Basically, they took samples and came back like, we don't know. We'll ship it off because we can't figure this out. Some of the lore about it is crazy too. So like some of them are really malevolent and like vicious, and they literally like go out and they drink blood. Also, there's other
Okay.
ones that want to eat your liver and your heart. That's the special things, and then slowly eat your insides. But the most interesting one, or the most funny one, I don't know why it's funny to me, maybe because I'm a giant man child too, is there's another set of them that want to eat your shirokandama. Have you ever heard of this?
I have a feeling that you're about to say some sort of genitalia.
Right? So this is a ball, right? That's inside of you. That is where your
Okay.
soul is located. Right?
Oh, okay.
So where do you suppose this might be that the kappa, go after it?
Well, in a man, it would be the prostate. It's right between the anus and the prostate. It's between like the belly button and the butthole. It's like draw a line.
Sir, you
Yeah.
spot on nailed it. It's up your anus.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's see, this is the
I'm like,
problem.
what
I've also done
the
research
fuck?
into like qi and qigong. Qigong is something that I'm not going to get into today, but there's a guy, Dynamo Jack or Dynamite Jack. So everyone needs to look this guy up. And you know what? If you're out there, I think about you every day, Jack. Anyway,
I think about you.
but no, it makes me think about the Qigong thing because he would explain the way he was able to make the electrical charges throughout his body and send shocks into people's body. And he was talking about that, like, basically our chi source, and he described where it was, and that's all I told
I
you.
get it. Yeah,
where it is.
Yeah, I actually looked some of that up too because I was like, "What? Why is that a thing? Why do they believe that?" And there are so many
because
different
that's
reasons.
A thing.
Yeah, there's so
because
many
whether
different
kappas
reasons.
are
It's
in
funny.
your culture or not, that area is at the very least some sort of. I mean, look, important chakras
Center
are down
of
there.
yeah,
you know
center
what I
of
mean?
your body, sort of a
Some
thing.
weird stuff, that Kundalini area. I know it's weird, but
Speaking of weird too, another folklore about them is their favorite food is cucumbers, right? Which I love cucumbers. I'm like, that's awesome. So do I, right? And so that's why people like during a certain time of the year they throw fresh cucumbers into the water to appease them and keep them away and keep them happy. It also will help them come up and they irrigate of like farm soil and stuff like that. If you do that in your neighborhood or in your prefecture, I should say. And then the other superstition is not to eat cucumbers if you're a kid or a beautiful woman, beautiful kid, it says, because if you go swimming with cucumbers in your belly, it attracts them even more because then they want to get to your shirokandama or the cucumbers that are in your system. So they basically drag you down, pull you from your insides, from your anus out and eat you. And then the other ones drink, the other species of them drink your blood. I'm like, Jesus.
I feel like, see, now I'm imagining like exactly the description from Sam Neill's Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park when the kid's just like, that's not so bad, just like a big turkey. And then he's just like, the one comes at you with this big claw. He goes, but that's not the one you got to worry. It's the two on the side.
Clever girl.
Because then they tear it across your belly, spilling your intestines. See,
yeah. And that's the funny thing too. I was reading about this, like, so
you're
the
alive
reason why
when
they
start to eat you.
Yeah, you're alive. They were talking about how like most predatory animals, even animals in the ocean, eat for the soft skin, like the bellies and all that stuff too. And this is one of the creatures that does that. He's going through your anus for all your soft insides, like Jesus, and for your soul ball, or shirokandama. Like that is a frightening thing to think, And it's like they're saying that back in like
Lion's Feast.
Well, that's what they usually do. They
Lions
eat the back,
tear the
back
asshole
end.
out of the
Yeah, the back
first.
out. Exactly. Well, the other thing that I thought was interesting, I was like, man, this is one that I could really
Sorry.
research because there's so much like Japanese, culture, and they have records of everything.
Yeah.
So you go back and read some of the records, and it's like they found bodies with the insides pulled out. So the first initial thing is, okay, when you die or when you drown, a lot of times you get a prolapse anus, right? So that's like,
Yeah.
I guess, a big thing.
For
So
sure.
that's when they start, the pressure pushing you out. So that's when, or not when, that's another like perception thing. Like, oh, we found all these drowned babies and kids and beautiful people with prolapse anuses. Maybe these kappas, this is in that area. These kappas are killing people. This river is really treacherous, but there's a lot of kappa down there. You know what I mean? We keep finding people with their insides pulled out. So, either whether it's one of those things we were talking about, fear tactics of, hey, be careful in this water because it's dangerous. Okay, you're not listening. Everyone's drowning. There's kappa in the water pulling your insides out. Either way, it's something that I'm like, man, way too many things happening to be faked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it gets
Also, I
my
feel
mind
like-
thinking on a lot of different separate things, but I'm not going to get in each one of them. You know how I am.
So, yeah. Also, I feel like
Tangential.
this: like anytime the scientific community or government gets behind one of these things, I'm like less likely to be like that's hocus pocus. It's like, all right, they're not telling us everything, but they're telling us to be careful. That kind of a thing. You know what I mean? It's like microwaves come out. Like, yeah, no problem. Go. Use them. They're great, but don't stand so close, okay? Because we haven't figured out the shielding exactly. You know what I mean? Now, of course, way 1,000 times better, but still, I mean, think of how many older people will tell you, well, you shouldn't stand next to it in a microwave. And you're like, why? What the heck does it matter? Well, it does give off a little bit of radiation, but not like in the 50s when they came out, when they were basically reactor cores in your house. You know what I mean?
I like that they used to sell those, hey, learn to play with atomic energy kits, just like a chemistry
Right,
kit. And they
right.
would actually give you like little bits of, again, maybe it was just cobalt, something mildly.
Yeah, of course.
And then you get your, Jimmy's first Geiger counter. Listen to the clicks.
Right? It's one of those things where like I'm of the age now that I realize, and I was putting a meme actually funny enough on my Facebook. I'm of the age when you couldn't let the vacuum run in one spot. You know what I mean? Like, because it would destroy your carpet. Like it would shred your shit. You know what I mean? Whereas
what's crazy?
nowadays it's like everything's really soft and easy and not that big a deal because we've learned, hey, this is dangerous now. Don't do it. It's the same thing like putting up signs for kappa. Like, it's a river. It's a fast-moving river. People are drowning. Don't do it anymore. People are now starting to be like, "Oh, that makes sense."
I never thought about it
slowly
like that.
but surely.
That makes sense. Yeah.
We're like, "Oh, before we just thought you're, trying to scare us." Now it's like, "Oh, actually, yeah, that's a really fast-moving river with a strong undertow that is covered in giant boulders. If you hit your head, you'll drown, and your insides will be sucked out. When we find you."
It kind of had me thinking a little bit of that West Memphis 3 situation where the whole town was blaming those 3 kids who no longer kids, 3 men finally exonerated, of course. You know what I mean? They were 3 kids who, basically, to boil it down into the simplest and obviously least detailed, but they were the kids that wore Metallica shirts in the early 90s. And for that reason, this Bible Belt town found them to be, they decided that these kids were the root of the problem, apparently, and they were blamed for some horrendous things, which, again, I don't remember every detail. I don't remember if those poor kids ended up getting lost and dying of exposure or if they were actually hurt, but it didn't look like satanic
rituals performing
ritual evil acts on people. It looked like bodies. I don't know how it got there. I don't remember that detail, but animals do live in forests, and animals do go for certain bits, which are what they were
Always the
claiming
soft
are,
bits.
again, the genitals, the things that hang off fingers,
soft faces,
noses, the
Yep.
stuff that sticks out. And on a boy,
eyeballs.
look, exactly, and that's all. And those poor guys were blamed as these satanic, with knives, ritual type. Come on, and and honestly, how in the fuck do you try to talk your way out of that?
Well, perception is everything, like you're saying. Back to the whole sea creature thing. Like these kappa, a lot of times people think, well, there's a good and bad kappa now, because there have been times when people have found these animals, ripped off their arms, and it, like I said, enslaved them or make them do their bidding, kind of a thing. And made them nice and treated them like family. So like when you go over there, like there's a couple videos, there's like funny pictures of kappa where they're smiling and they have the water bowl in their head, or vessel on their head. Sometimes it's like a jar kind of a thing. And then there's other times where they're like this like terroristic, like blood sucking, vicious animals, because in that town or that prefecture, they had a lot of deaths. Whereas in the other one, 50 miles away, they had great fishing and good irrigation. Like, well, they believe so much that these things were happening because of these creatures that one side's believing that they're good, the other side's believing that they're terrible. You know what I mean? Because they have bad crops and no fish, and you know what I mean, and all these kids and beautiful women are being drowned. Like it's just one of those things, like that deep perception of, man, what's going on? You know what I mean? What's really out there? And that's one of the reason why I like kind of this sea creature or water creatures, because it's one of the last places that we haven't really been able to figure out or explore to the fullest. You know what I mean? And when I was a kid, looking at I think it was Cameron or something like that. The director, I forget, David Cameron, who did Titanic,
James
right?
Cameron.
James Cameron, thank you.
James Cameron
and another explorer, like a deep sea explorer. They were doing
the guy who started the Jason Foundation.
The Jason Foundation. Yeah, exactly.
I always remembered that, and he was all inspired by Jason and the Argonauts, and I loved that movie growing up. Big Ray Harryhausen fan. Yeah, no, that whole group, I remember that.
Like that inspired me. Like, wow, there's creatures down there that we don't know about. And then that's when like the world got intrigued. After he did that, like the world got intrigued, and we started seeing pictures of like you're talking about anglerfish and all that sort of stuff, and like deep sea creatures with bioluminescence. Like these things are real now to us because we're seeing them. Before, imagine an anglerfish, coming up on the ocean with no science, or no level of science that they had back then versus what we have now. That's a monster. You know what I mean? Even if it's 10 feet around,
and it swam out of hell.
Well, I mean, think about this too. Like sunfish. Yeah, you lived in Hawaii. Like sunfish and all that stuff. They grow to be like 70, 80 feet around. Like big, gigantic, completely docile creatures. But when you see
I
one,
don't have
they're
a picture
insane.
in my head right now.
It looks like a giant, like circle with fins on top and bottom. It's crazy. But it has a total dopey looking face. It's not like a flounder because it swims vertical in water. So it's not like flat this way.
Yeah.
It's vertical up and down this way. So it's pretty interesting. Like, and it's huge. I mean, they get as big as whales, like I said, like 80, 90 feet sometimes. I don't know the exact sizes, but it's gigantic. And if you see that, when you see it like up near the surface, it's frightening. But now we know,
makes me feel like I didn't do enough research.
I like to go
like, how'd you come across this thing? I don't even know how you found. I guess I'm not, as much as I tried to keep it real, I didn't find enough of these actual real crazy sounding things like sunfish. What the hell are you talking about? And you say I lived in Hawaii. I'm like, I'm trying to think. There's this one fish that I ate in Hawaii that was only in Hawaii, and it had a very Hawaiian name. I don't remember what it was supposedly looked like or anything.
Well, literally, how
I'm
I
trying to
find half
think.
of this stuff is I'll start looking something up, and then I'm like, okay, let me look up. I'll go into, like, for example, this one, the kappa. I looked up kappa in the Japanese culture and did all the research for the very like top level surface stuff. Like, okay, let's see what it looks like, what it eats, what it, why people are afraid of it, and then I'll go into like Noah, the like scientific side of it, and then I'll go into like government records and try to look up stuff, right? And a lot of times it'll spin off where it's like, oh, they believe like, oh, Kappa was just a snapping turtle, like that's what happens. The snapping turtles eat the buttholes, right? Beak makes sense. They can grow
They
in
do it.
Japan to
They
be
do
over
it.
200 pounds. So could
Pretty big.
yes,
Pretty big.
could
Yeah.
very well be. Arms are easy to be ripped off because they're basically just little bitty
You ever see
arms.
that
You know what I mean?
salamander out there? You ever see that one giant
Yeah,
salamander?
the giant Japanese salamander. Yeah, but I mean, it's like
All right, that thing.
they always try to
It could
disprove
be a
it.
monster.
Well, yeah, and
No,
that's
they
why I
found
get
it.
in.
I've seen it.
Yeah, that's why I get into it, and
This
then
thing
like
has
I'll
the most
start.
amazing respiratory system. Sorry, it just cut you off really quick. Not only does it have lungs and gills, but also it has a skin which is so adept at just pulling oxygen from the water around it, not air, not the gas, but from the water, that they did a horrible experiment on the thing where they took its lungs out, and I think they deactivated its gills or something. Or maybe it doesn't have gills. But
No, it has both. Just like I know what you're talking about. Just like those things. Remember when
but
I
the
had
skin,
one? It's called a water dog. You remember that? It starts with an X. It's like
I remember
Zutzalcoatl.
that.
So those things
Yeah,
can breathe underwater and above water.
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl or something
Yes.
crazy like that. They
Type thing.
breathe both
They have like their
underwater
gills on
and
the
above.
outside.
Yeah.
They have those external gills.
They have like external lung gills. So they can come up and open their mouth and bark. That's why you hear them. Or they can be underwater
Weird.
and make a sound, which is kind of crazy. That's one of the other things that they attribute it to is a giant one of those or a giant salamander. But I was just looking up to the sunfish, a record size sunfish, 5,070 pounds they found.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
That's like a tank.
2.5 tons.
That's a
2.5
tank.
tons.
You know what I mean? That's insane.
That is really crazy. I'm really shocked at that. I think the turtle thing makes a lot of sense. There's giant creatures. The turtle thing makes a lot of sense. The lore of the Kappa, though, it does also remind me of other ancient reptilians / fish that helped us. I go back to Sumerian a lot because it's kind of like the oldest that we find. That like has multiple texts at least as well. We can actually try to translate it. Because of what is it? Because of the damn Rosetta Stone as well is why we can translate it. You know what I mean? And so with that, they talk about what was it? Enki, and Enki was that first. He was the Sumerian god that had almost like a fish robe, like a fish's tail robe. He was kind of, I don't know if I want to call him like a Poseidon, but because he was also like, he imparted wisdom and all that. And again, when you talk about the Kappas teaching certain fishing methods, tactics,
and
any
medical
of that
stuff,
type stuff, yeah, it makes me think about those similarities in the ancient world when people would say that these creatures helped us. You know what I mean? And that is fascinating beyond words.
Yeah, I mean,
again,
I literally like I went off
the
on
ancient
a
aliens thing, but
yeah, I went off on the run. Speaking of ancient aliens too, like I was going to bring this up, like the sunfish when they first found the skeleton of a sunfish that in this area, I forget where it was. Where it was. It was in the Pacific, but they found the skeleton and thought it was a alien because of the way that it was shaped. It looked like it had giant wings, and the thing was over 3 wait, what does it say? Oh, here it is. It was over
See, if I
32 feet wide, like wingspan. So it's like if you saw something like that with an eye
wingspan
that
is what they
big,
thought, yeah.
wingspan. Because if you look at, I'll send you the link to this too. If you look at it, it looks like a set of wings. It's insane how big this thing is. And it had like a big eye socket. And like there's pictures of them dead in the ocean where like they float up to the top because they can swim pretty far down. You probably heard of them, mola mola. They're also called sunfish. They swim far down,
maybe.
and when they die, their bodies puff up, and they become even bigger when they hit the surface. So it's like you see this animal down deep is pretty big anyway, but then when it comes up, it doubles in size and it's sitting on the ocean surface. Like that would be frightening to see if you've never seen it. You know what I mean?
And that first time, if you're the first person seeing it, like telephone line, by the time you get home, it's a big fish tail, and already that little trout is 20 pounds when you explain it to your friends. And that 2.5 ton sunfish that you didn't even know existed, it's Godzilla all of a sudden, it's
right. And the other thing,
Leviathan as spoke in Revelation,
exactly. The other thing I was thinking too, like
the end.
They were talking about the sunfish. They don't know how old they are. They have no clue. They can't figure it out. So they don't know the life cycle, how long they live, because they found ones that are really young that died. And they found ones that they think are hundreds of years.
We're not talking about like sea stars, like the sun stars, right?
No, not like a starfish. This is a giant fish-looking fish. It literally looks like a circle with fins on the end of it.
I don't like it.
It is.
I'm imagining something terrifying.
I was like, this is not a creature. This is not like a mythical creature that I'm reading about. This is something that is real. They found it.
And when I do my research, or if I try to look up anything new these days, all of my Google Chrome, my YouTube algorithm, it doesn't give me anything real at all. It wants to it only wants to.
You gotta really deep dive.
I would get an article, even if it touched on that, it would focus on, they found what appears to be an alien. They wouldn't mention the fact that it had been proven to be a sunfish and explain what a sunfish is and how this kind of thing happens. They would be like, I usually do think too. It's an alien, and they'll leave it at that. Those are the videos that I come across these days. So
I'll look at the video and then I'll go look up.
I'm trying to keep it real. I'm like,
I like to look up the video and look up like what city it was in and the time period, and then you could just go look at the newspaper and you can go look at all of the articles, all of the government information about it. Most of your government stuff is all written, well, not written out, but all written out or typed out. Where you can go read it. You can go read what they thought it was. I mean, back in 1910, they caught one that was 3,500 pounds, 1,600 kilograms, right? This thing, and the only reason why they caught it is because it jumped up and killed a 4-year-old kid when it landed on it. They have no idea where it came from in 1910. Like, this is a real, like, frightening thing that is docile, kind of like a whale shark. You know what I mean?
Docile. The first time we ever heard of it, it killed a child. But only on accident. About this
it didn't do it on purpose. You know what I mean? It wasn't malicious.
Okay, fine. So
it's like
that's just
I look
manslaughter.
At it like. Yeah, manslaughter. If it's catching a case, then that's what it is. But it is what it is. Unintentional manslaughter, by the way. It's less time, probably 5 to 8 years, somewhere on that, I think.
you know what? I think the prosecutor is going to bring him up, Mr. Sunfish. I'm glad we have you here, taking the stand, here to represent yourself. What was your intention jumping up that day? If not to hit the child,
I normally jump. Exactly. Now, see.
What did you intend?
I would be that Southern lawyer.
Now, I'm just a simple country lawyer. But I declare, I say, listen up, son.
The sun was out that day.
Leghorn. If it weren't for Mel Blanc, I wouldn't know how to do one impression. Thank you, Mel Blanc. Except for some of the impressions that I
he gets a little dicey. He gets a little dicey. Thank them through gritted teeth. Thanks.
It's weird being a little
Thanks for
kid
most
and
of what
watching
you
Looney
did.
Tunes and being in Southern California and thinking you're innocent and just doing a Bugs Bunny imitation. Haha. And then doing a Speedy Gonzalez imitation and being too young to know how horrible you're
How
being.
terrible you are. Yeah, exactly.
Man.
How cliche racist you might be.
Oh, we won't even talk about his cousin. My goodness. Why?
Right? Exactly.
Chuck, Joe, why?
It was
Anyway,
different times, as I
Creatures of the
believe.
Deep.
Different times is what I believe they give the excuse to, but okay. Yeah, but again, so definitely look up some of that stuff about sunfish. It's a really
I'm
interesting
going to be looking up
species.
sunfish.
Also, I'll send you
Looking
that
up
link to
sunfish.
the kappa stuff.
The kappa. I also implore anyone taking a look at this to look up. It's a delicious white fish in Hawaii, and I do not remember what it's called, but it is a very long Hawaiian sounding name. I believe it's Ono Ono or something. It's like you repeat the same thing twice. What's the one you said? I think they just call it Ono fish too.
Mola,
I think they might just call it Ono.
Mola.
I don't think that's the one. But there is that fish, and it is very delicious. And for a long time, apparently, someone was telling me that it used to be rife with parasites. And I said, "Oh, well, I've been eating it for a few months. Thanks for telling me now." They said, "Oh, no, they know how to clean them now." So I don't know, but I guess it probably used to. Whatever, pigs was bad. Now not so much, as they say. But still don't want to eat any sashimi pork. But
yeah, I'll pass. We already have enough botulism around nowadays. You can get Botox right in your face. That's what.
I think.
By the way, exact same thing.
Yeah, and this doesn't have anything to do.
I didn't know that till probably 10 years ago.
Here's an interesting hot take. I had to be on some anti-anxiety medication for a while, and I had to try to find a new doctor. And I was talking to a doctor, and I said, "Well, I'm on an anti-anxiety medication." He's like, "Oh," and he's like, "Oh, well, I can't write you that prescription." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Well, have you tried this though?" And hang on, just one moment, actually. And he said, "Well, there's a new treatment. What they do is they inject Botox into your face, and the idea is that if you're having an anxiety attack, one of the first things that happens is your face muscles start to tense up. So the idea is if we stop your face muscles from tensing up, that'll interrupt the natural processes of how your anxiety starts, and your brain will say, 'Oh, my face isn't tight, so I must not be having anxiety.
I must be fine.'"
And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'll take that into consideration." And then I called another doctor, and the other doctor said, "I can't write you the script for what you need. Have you heard about this medication where..." and this tripped me out. He said, "This medication slows your heart rate down." And I
Should
said,
be fine.
"Pardon?
That's
again."
Something they recommend, right?
And he says, "Yeah." And he has the same exact spiel as the other guy, but insert the other thing. So the idea is when an anxiety attack starts, your heart starts to race. So this medication keeps your heart slower, so your brain says, "Oh, we're not having an anxiety attack.
We're fine. What the hell?
We're fine." And I said, "Doc, you're talking about taking a medication that slows my heart rate down." And then I explained to him the other doctor's recommendation about the exact same thing, but with face muscles. I said, "I'd rather take the one that'll make me look younger, and if it doesn't work, at least it's just my face." I was like, I'm more inclined to get Botox injections than I am to take a medication that slows my heart rate down. And I'm like, I take the medication I'm on because it does one thing. It stops anxiety. Its side effect is really just if you go up in dose all the time, and I don't. So it's like, thanks, but I'm going to keep my heart rate right where it's at.
Yeah.
A
I had the same.
pass.
I had the same similar thing. Oh, here, take this. It'll clear out your system, but it could kill your kidneys.
It could kill your
Uh,
kidneys.
isn't that the
What?
thing that clears out my
What?
system?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna give you this antibiotic, could kill your kidneys, or it'll clear you out. Well, if I just drink a bunch of
It's
water,
the
would that
same
do the same
mentality
thing?
as Dr. Farnsworth, as Dr. Farnsworth going into Philip J. Fry again, doing it again, where he shrunk himself and he was going to tickle like the splanchnic ganglion or whatever, and they're like, "Are you sure it'll get all the worms out?" He says, "Honey, after this BM, he'll be lucky to have any bones." You know,
Exactly.
like he's
Exactly.
gonna lose it all.
Like, oh, fix the
He's gonna
problem with a
look like the
hammer.
Kappa
I'm like,
got him.
dude, right? They're like, I'll
He's gonna
fix
look
it with
like
a
the Kappa
hammer
got
instead
him.
of a feather. Jesus.
Ugh. Yeah, you know. But when you're only holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Back to the deep. I think,
Right.
though, that's a fair place to wrap up. I think that
Yeah.
the deep is something that we're going to continue to probably have things pop up. You know, if something in the news, we usually will try to be ever so slightly topical. You know, when they flipped the CERN thing a second time, we were doing it that night. And, you know, James Webb on that night. And if we hear another bloop, we'll bring this back up. It's one of those.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that the ocean is a place that we're probably even more under researched than. And again, when we were talking about echolocation, I think a lot of those creatures have a sort of a thing, at least a sense or a scent. Sharks smell blood. That means they'll know if you're close. You know, if we're trying to get close with even a camera, I think whole species are getting the hell away. I don't think some of the
they
ocean
read
is nearly as
electro
bare.
fields and stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Oh, and I believe that. I believe that as well. I think it's less explored than space right now, which we think of
Absolutely.
space as being this infinite world, and it's like it's less explored than the space around the Earth. You know what I mean?
We
Like,
don't.
that's
Yep.
crazy. It's covered in water, and we don't have
Yeah.
have the resources or the actual ability to explore it to the extent that we could explore 360 around our Earth. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
insane to me.
We can build machines that handle the pressure of the vacuum of
The-
space
yeah,
better than they
exact
can handle
vacuum
the
of space.
depths of getting closer to the core of our
Yeah.
planet. Just
You couldn't put
and
it
that along
in
with the
perspective.
pressure of the water. You know,
Yeah, in perspective, you couldn't take a space shuttle to the bottom of the ocean. You could take a space shuttle closer to the sun, or closer to
a
the sun than you
submarine.
could.
You could take a
to the-
submarine.
No, the other way around. So
No?
you can take a space shuttle closer to the sun than you could closer to the bottom of the ocean. How insane is that?
I
You know what
was
I mean? You
thinking
think
you
of you
can't
think of
take
fire
a.
as
I was thinking you can't take a space shuttle into the ocean. You can't, but you could probably properly outfit a submarine to be in space.
no different because one is exertion pushing in, the other is exertion pulling out.
Man, again, I would like to reiterate
Yeah.
something that was so kindly brought up to us in one episode. I am not a scientist. That might be a catchphrase of mine. I might have wanted to
Right.
make like the
get you
conspiracy
a hat.
theories a thing. But yeah, I might just be getting a hat that says I am not a scientist. Or maybe I'll just
Non-certified
I'll wear a
scientist.
sign. Non-certified scientist,
certified
enthusiast,
non-scientist. That's the hat.
certifiable,
I'm certified that I'm not a
and
scientist.
certifiable and enthusiastic about scientific
Right.
things.
Love it.
Certifiable. It's good, right? All right.
Exactly.
So, hang on. Let me talk to the stenographer. Did you get that? Let me see. I can't
Right,
read that shorthand shit. I don't know what it is. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
What is this gibberish?
Once you transcribe it later, Geraldine. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. She was my dad's stenographer. You know, we take care of the family. She's like family.
We keep her. She's
Man.
like family. Yeah, it was a good spot
but
to end
having
it
her
here.
live
But yeah.
here is a bit much. Yeah, okay, that was a silly joke. Everyone, thank you very much. If anyone would ever like to call in, we usually are going to be posting it into not just this weird QR code. I hope it doesn't look weird. You know, I try to put it on in the comments and on the description as well. At some point, very soon, I'm going to have it attached to
It's
our
fine.
website. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
it'd be good to
was
go.
hoping someone might call in. Deep stuff is a good one. Everyone,
Yeah.
thank you very much. As we go, it'll be fun. Next
Thanks
week will be
again.
more
Hope to see you
fun.
again.
Bye.